what you think about when you're born into a fire. But let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose.
What's up, Internet? Hope y'all's weekend's going good. I'm recording this one today. As you can tell, my co-host is on leave. He's on assignment, so it's just me today. I came in on a Saturday to do this one because I got a feeling I can't show TYT videos on my live stream. They just mess with me too much. So I'm gonna record this one. Even though I'm an educational channel and they shouldn't be messing with me, sometimes they still do. So yeah, I'm gonna film. I'm gonna show this one today, and I'll probably just throw it up as in the spot where I would normally do a live stream. It'll just be like one of my oh shit days, like where I don't have anything to put up. I'll put this up. This is a really good debate. It's an older one, and it's on a network that I can't really show like I would like to. So that's the reason for me doing it this way. I prefer to do it live because I feel like I'm talking to myself right now. It's kind of getting in my head a little bit. So let's get right into it. Here we go. Now watch them not even let me show it after it's recorded. That would be messed up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zero Hedge debate. The topic today is Israel's invasion of Gaza morally justified? We will also be touching on the topic of Iran, anti-Semitism, free speech here in the United States. Just some ground rules I'll lay out to everybody, and also so the audience understands. I'm going to be an aggressive moderator. I will cut people off. However, I just want to make it sure at the top we can agree everything will be civil. No crosstalk. If possible, try not to cut each other off. Definitely no ad hominem attacks. That's going to be a total no-go, and absolutely be cutting that. I'm not going to be enforcing time limits in terms of responses, and I do encourage both interaction, asking questions to each other. If we do ask a question, I'm going to request both that it's actually answered and that it's engaged in a respectful manner, and I will be jumping in there a little bit. In general, I have questions that can help guide, but I really would like to leave it up to everybody here. And so I think with that, I'm going to offer some opening statements. I'll give everybody, let's say, a couple of minutes, like 3 minutes or so. And so with that, I think we should go ahead and start. We'll start with you, Dennis. Dennis Prager is the founder of Prager University and the host of the Dennis Prager radio show. On the topic, is Israel's invasion of Gaza morally justified? Let's start there, which is the stated topic. Go ahead, sir.
So thank you very much. Thank you all who are watching. By the way, which is my camera? Because I want to talk to the audience.
Go ahead. I think it's
Is that it over there? Hi,
there
everybody.
All right.
Thank you for having me. The dilemma in the Middle East has always been the same from the beginning of Israel's creation in 1948, and that is that its neighbors do not want there to be a Jewish state in their midst. That is the entire problem. One side, as I have put it all of my life, one side wants the other side dead. And in case you were in doubt about it, October 7th should have made that clear. If you really want to have a serious moral debate, and one should, and you're not already committed to the anti-Israel side, I have a question. And I think this question more or less clarifies everything. If Israel announced, we are disarming and we will fight no longer, what would happen? If the Palestinians said, we are disarming and we will fight no longer, what would happen? If you are intellectually honest, you know the answer to the question. The day after Israel announced it disarmed, you would have an October 7th of the entire population of Israel. There would be finally an actual genocide, not the false accusation of Israeli genocide in Gaza. If the Palestinians announced that, the next day, or perhaps the next week, there would be peace. This is the only time, as the little excerpt I saw when I spoke at Oxford and debated this issue, this is the only case in modern history where people believe the democracy, the free state, the state with an opposition press, an opposition party, civil rights for all its citizens, including its 2 million Arab citizens, The peace-loving state, the democracy, is the aggressor, and the police state that tortures its opponents, they're the good guys. That is how inverted it is. I have a theory as to why everything is inverted, and I believe it is because it is the one Jewish state in the world. There are 22 Arab states, there are 52 Muslim states, there are 200 states around about that number all over the world. Only one is targeted for extinction. There is no other state targeted for extinction, only the one Jewish state the size of New Jersey. And so that is the issue. One side wants the other side dead, and it has been true since 1948.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much. Cenk, why don't we go to...
All right, before we do that, I'm going to address some of this. That was nothing but assertions. He's telling you what's going to happen in the future, like he's some kind of foreteller of the future. Dennis Prager, you're not like some like I don't even know what you'd call that, like a fortune teller, I guess, is the best I can get with it right now. Jesus, no evidence of anything. Just this is what I think will happen. That's what we're going to debate today, is just what Dennis Prager thinks is going to happen. And also, Israel also tortures its fucking enemies, so let's not pretend like it's just one side doing it. That's what they always like to do. They like to pretend like, oh, that side does all these bad things. And then when you look a little closer, Israel's doing all the same fucking shit. That's why I think both sides are terrorists. And I think that's why we don't need to be getting involved with either side. We need to stay the fuck out and keep them back. And that's it. But they want to call him our greatest ally. And can't tell you what they did, what they give us. But and also he said that only one nation's being targeted for extinction. Oh, is it the one they're dropping bombs on? Is it the one that started this fight? You're trying to say that Israel's the peace-loving side. Isn't that the side that just bombed Iran? Didn't y'all in America go kill a bunch of little Muslim girls in a all-girls school? How are you the peaceful side? You just say these things, these assertions with no evidence. It's insane. It's insane. And the only way you could get away with that is in an opening statement, because they can't interrupt you in that. That's the only reason that got through, because that is all horseshit.
To you, founder of the Young Turks, go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, we should clarify the question, because if we're saying, hey, was Israel right to go in the first place after October 7th? I say yes, but it depends on how. And how long do you stay? How do you conduct affairs, et cetera? If we're talking about how Israel has conducted this war and whether they should still be in there, that's a hard no. It's not even close. It's been absolutely atrocious what they've done. And not only has it killed over 33,000 Palestinians, with probably a lot more than that inside the rubble, 76,000 wounded, 1.1 million people starving. If you think that that is good for Israel, I think that you ought to have a sanity check. So not only is it devastating for the Palestinians, potentially devastating for the world, as Netanyahu now agitates for a broader war with Iran engulfing the entire Middle East, which will be catastrophic for America and the world. But for Israel itself, if you want a safe haven for Jews, you must stop the occupation. 75 long, brutal years. So it's one thing to say, hey, theoretically, Hamas would do this. And by the way, I'm then going to say all Palestinians would do that, or all Muslims would do that. That's a dangerous area to go to, right? It's another thing to say, yes, well, while they theoretically don't want our state to exist, we are actually preventing their state from existing. I mean, it's such an ironic argument. Hey, we prevented their state for 75 long years. We prevented them from having freedom for 75 long years. We brutalized them in every possible way. We've humiliated them in every possible way. Number one, we can't believe they're fighting back. Are you serious? We'll talk a lot about this in the debate. But so would people have been surprised if Jews fought back against the Germans during World War II? Would that have been terrorism? Is that what it would have been? That's outrageous to say that. Of course, Jews should have been able to fight back against the Germans. Any occupied people should be able to fight back. We can go to Armenians fighting back against the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so those are my original people. I'm Turkish descent. And if you said, well, the Armenians, how dare they? They should have loved the Turks. And they should have said the Turks are the greatest people on earth. And they should have been occupied and accepted their occupation. I can't believe they fought back. And you know what? When the Turks moved them and killed them, they were just defending themselves. They have a right to defend themselves. Guys, if you're in that camp, I don't think you understand how biased you sound and how it does not sound to anyone outside of your camp that you're in a rational world. So if you want Israel to be safe, you must end the occupation. It is not optional. So is the goal here to say, as Netanyahu is clearly saying now, he's saying, I do not want a two-state solution. Permanent occupation means permanent war, permanent terrorism, and a disaster for Israel, let alone the Palestinians.
Got it. Batya, why don't you?
All right, before we get into hers, let me just point out here, because this was from April of 2024, I think. So this is this is 2 years before the Iran invasion, even before the first one they did like 9 months ago. This is well in the future, and you can see everyone knew Israel wanted to invade Iran. It was so obvious. Everyone could see it, except the people on the right side of the table who want to call Israel the peaceful people who try to keep you out of war. We'll see.
You go ahead. Batya Ungar-Sargon, she is opinion editor at Newsweek, and she's the author of Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women, which we have a copy of on the desk right over there. She was so kind to give us one. Go ahead, Batya. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here with this panel. Are we all in agreement that Israel was just to invade after October 7th? Shank, you agreed with that. Dennis, you obviously agreed with that. I agree with that. Dave, are you in agreement that that was a just...
I would say, like Cenk, it depends on what you mean by
what
invade.
followed.
Sure.
But the initial invasion itself, you could see that from a just point, that that would have been justified based on October 7th, based on had they conducted themselves. There was a way that Israel could have conducted itself that you would have felt comfortable with that as a reaction to October 7th. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, look, if you're spending your opening asking me a question, it's a fairly complex question, but I would certainly say that Israel was more than justified in pursuing and killing anybody who was involved in October 7th.
Why don't we cut the questions there? Continue with your opening statement. We'll get to
Well,
that.
I think that's very important because then we can narrow the scope of the debate. It doesn't have to be about whether the war is just, but whether Israel's behavior since invading was just and the way that it has carried it out. And I think the answer to that is very clearly yes, because first of all, the measures that Israel has taken, obviously, we look at the destruction and it is horrifying. We see these children, we see women, we see people being impacted in the most horrific way. And it looks horrible. But the reality is that war is horrible. And the thing that we have to determine is Israel engaged in a war or in war crimes, right? Is Israel engaged in a justified response to a heinous attack, or is it going and doing things that are beyond the pale? And the evidence seems to suggest that Israel is not only behaving in a way that every other army has behaved in a very similar situation, but in a much more careful way, despite the massive destruction. And the evidence for that is in the efforts that they have made, the millions and millions of phone calls they make. You understand that Israel telegraphs to the enemy before every single thing that it does in Gaza. They're literally giving away the plan in order to get civilians out of harm's way. Now, can more be done? More can always be done. But have they gone further than any army in human history? The answer is yes. The number 33,000. Last week, Hamas put out a statement on Telegram in which they said they cannot account for 11,000 of those. So Hamas itself reduced the number to 22,000, which means that if you take the number of Hamas soldiers who have been killed, right? Israel says 13,000. Hamas itself in February admitted to 6,000. We're talking about a ratio of combatants to non-combatants that, again, simply has not been seen in urban warfare. All of these things, I think, come together to suggest that despite the enormous devastation, and I'm with you on that emotionally, we have to analyze this objectively and conclude that if you are saying 33,000 as the number of dead, you are mourning the butchers. And I think that's shameful. I think it's really important that people who are mourning the civilians make sure that they are careful, that they are not mourning exactly what we all have agreed on, which is that the butchers, Israel had every right, not just every right, but a moral right and a moral obligation to kill them.
Got it. Thank you, Batya. Dave?
All right. More assertions and lies from the Zionist side. Oh, my God. Yeah, no. That's just all her opinion. She didn't bring up any evidence. She said, "I think," so many times. Like, it's not even really a debate at that point. It's just, let's talk about our feelings, right? She can't prove that they send these telegraphs or whatever she said to them before they send the bomb. And if they are doing that, then why even blow it up then? If you're just going to warn them that they're going to, like, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Like, what, do you have all their text? Do you have their phone number to text them? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is nonsense. If they are alerting everybody about what they're about to do, how come everybody is still dead in those piles of rubble then? Please explain that. Like, are they just going, oh, they said they're going to bomb us, well, let's just stay here? That doesn't make any sense at all. And you can't account for the fact that there are so many women and children in the well, we're not allowed to see it yet. They're still hiding that from us because, they're Israel, so we let them get away with whatever they want. So they haven't even let us know the accurate numbers. They're not even letting people come in to check to see how many people they have murdered. That's how bad that war got. This is all before the second attacks. Let me make that clear. This is not the Iran stuff. This is the Gaza war, because this is like 2 years before they started another war. So on to Dave.
You can go ahead. Comedian, and he's host of the Part of the Problem podcast. Go ahead, Dave.
Sure. Well, since we have a short opening here, I think I'll just respond to a couple things that I've heard you guys say so far. So one of the things that I notice almost in every war is that it kind of drives people down to this most base collectivist understanding of what's going on here. This side is bad, this side is good, and no one really sees the nuance that there are individuals involved. So, for example, in the war between Ukraine and Russia, you see people who have the Ukrainian flag in their Twitter bio, and they celebrate when there's a Russian defeat, never really considering the fact that many of these Russian young boys were conscripted into this army, and that they're victims too. And, when Mr. Prager says one side wants peace and the other side wants to kill all of these people, it's a very convenient collectivist way to look at things. But the objective reality of the situation here is that there have been atrocities on both sides committed against the other side. This is true throughout the history of the existence of Israel. This is true before the existence of the state of Israel, with the Zionist settlers, the British, the Arabs. There were atrocities committed on all sides. And to say that everybody, as if, or to imply that everybody on the Israeli side just wants peace, and everybody on the Palestinian side just wants, that is just not true. There are lots of Palestinians who just want peace, and there are lots of Israelis who want their land and are quite willing and will openly, explicitly say they're willing to do whatever it takes to take their land. Now, to your point about how, you said every single strike they're warned. No, that is just not true. That's objectively not true. They do warn sometimes, but then that also leads to the question of, does that mean that whatever you do is just okay? The reality is that this is not just a war like any other war. And that doesn't mean other wars are justified necessarily, but there's a very big difference in this war compared to almost any other war we could think of. And the major difference that I see is that Israel has dominated the Palestinian people since at least 1967, and we could probably go back before that. Let me just say this. If we look at things in not a collectivist way, and we recognize that there are individuals, and these individuals make up different groups. Let's say we have the group that is Hamas, made up of individuals, but that's Hamas. Within that group, we have the militant Hamas, and we have the political arm of Hamas. They are different. We also have Israel, which is made up of its citizens. We have different political parties within Israel. Okay, let's take this one group for a second. The innocent Palestinians. I hope both of you would concede that such a group does exist. There are some people on the pro-Israel side who will explicitly tell you that that group does not exist. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there is no group that has been more victimized than the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, maybe we ought to think about that group. Nobody has been through it worse than that group, the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, I think the question needs to be asked, does Israel have a right to do what it's been doing to the innocent Palestinians for many, many decades now?
Thank you guys very much. You all stayed within the...
All right. That Dave's opening statement gave me an idea here. Why do you think they would be warning before they blow up hospitals? because it's about getting them off the land. It's not even, I don't even think they're trying to kill all the women and children. It's just they don't care if they do or not. The main goal is to get them out of there. They want that land to be for just like the people of Israel, which is not really fair considering the people of Gaza were there way before they were. That's the fucking issue here. I think that they really just want the land, just like they're doing with all these other countries now, like Iran and places like that. They want the land. They have the Greater Israel Project, and this is why they blew up those hospitals. This is why it looks like just a pile of rubble. That's why, because they wanted it all destroyed, because they're going to build it back nice. They weren't going to use a hospital that they had their, the war prisoners go to. They wanted a new hospital. So they'll just blow that shit up and start over with their own things. That's what this is about. And that's what everybody tries to pretend like they're not seeing. But that's why they did all this in Gaza. They wanted to destroy everything, and blowing it up, hey man, it's out of the way. Now we don't have to tear it down and build a new one.
The time limit, which is actually incredible. And Bache, you did steal a little bit of my thunder because, and I'm big glad that you answered that question, Dave and Cenk both responded in that way about how exactly, what the question and the superimposed upon that is that, do we agree that Israel at least either had a right or was justified in taking some action as a result of October 7th? So my question, I think, to both of you, and both of you can feel free to chime in after both of them has responded, is if we look at the original statements for the war and for the invasion, is that the Israeli military was supposed to accomplish a few objectives. Number one, they had to destroy Hamas, the militant terrorist organization. Two, they had to lead to the release of the hostages. And three, they had to make sure that an October 7th could never happen again. So in the conduct...
Oh, and four, they had to destroy all those buildings so that they could build them back with their own nice new buildings whenever they move all the people of Israel into that land.
...of the war so far, do you believe that they have been successful with those objectives? Dennis, why don't you go ahead and go first?
None of us knows yet. Israel is being prevented by much of the world. And it's, I feel that on this entire issue, I'm living in a make-believe world. Every analogy could have been.
I want you to think about that for a second. They're killing babies and women right now. Well, at that time. And he's talking about they're all just out to get Israel. That's the mentality these people have. These Zionists, they are always the victim. They could punch you in the face and then complain, look what you did to my knuckle. That's how they act. And this is, please tell me how they're the victim of all those murders they committed.
Been applied to Nazi Germany. There were innocent Germans who were killed by the Allies in the bombing and in invasions and so on. No one denies that. But to point out that there were innocent Germans while the Nazis were in charge is a morally idiotic point. It means nothing. It only means that every innocent German's life that was taken is the responsibility of the Nazis.
Let that sink in. He's saying, do you think that just a regular German guy from the German countryside in World War II, do you think he was planning on going and getting all the Hebrew people? I don't think he even probably cared. Like, you don't have a control. Just like our young guys who are going to get drafted whenever this war keeps going in the direction it's going, they're not going to have a say either, right? So by his same logic, if they capture one of our guys, they should torture him, kill him, because, hey, that's their fault. They shouldn't be there. That's his mentality, and that's what you're going to have to deal with, because we're getting to that point. Is it going to be your son's fault whenever he has to go fight in a war he doesn't believe in and doesn't even benefit his own country? How are you going to feel?
Every innocent Palestinian life that has been taken is the responsibility of Hamas or Hezbollah. That's it. The analogy is perfect. There is one difference between Hamas and the Nazis. And
all those bullets we fired into those women and children, that's all Hamas's fault. Yep.
I never called any group in my 40 years of radio Nazi. I never called an individual that, other than the Nazis of the 1940s. But there is only one difference between Hamas and the real Nazis of Germany. The Germans hid their atrocities. Hamas boasts and videos them.
Bache, go ahead.
Huh. Are they the ones going on the news showing pictures of all the dead your side, or are we getting pictures of like all the dead people on their side? How are they so many atrocities? Please tell me how that's worse than what you did in Gaza. You killed almost a big portion of the population, not just the men who are of the age where they possibly could have done that, because that's what they're trying to do now, is just if you're of that age and you're male, you were Hamas. That's what they're trying to do with these figures whenever they're figuring up how many people they murdered.
I think that they have, I would say, destroying Hamas, definitely. They're not going to get every single one, but the idea that Yahya Sinwar will ever breathe open air again seems to me very far-fetched. I think they have driven him underground forever. And, you know, they've cut off the head. And the idea that Hamas will be able to regroup at this point seems to me very unlikely. The release of the hostages, no.
Good point. Why did you have to go and kill them all right after that?
They failed on that front. I think they tried. Maybe they could have tried harder. I think, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of them are dead. So a lot to say about that, but I think on that they've obviously failed. And as to another October 7th, I think a lot of that has to do with what we're seeing now in terms of the realignment happening in the Middle East, to where you see Saudi Arabia clinging to the idea that they too will be able to join the Abraham Accords at some point. The moderate Sunni and Gulf states rushed to Israel's defense, amazingly, to protect them from these Iranian rockets. And to me, that is, you know, I mean, I don't think this is a moral question so much as a strategic one. And I'm sure we're going to get into where does the United States fit into all this? Where do we want the United States to fit into all this? But from that point of view, and an Iran-backed October 7th, should it happen again, is going to happen in a very different Middle East, one in which Israel has a lot of support from the Arab nations, and that makes it less likely as well, I believe.
Yeah,
Can I just, I'm just kind of, I'm blown away by the statement that Mr. Prager just made, that the only difference he can see between the Nazis and Hamas is that the Nazis hid their atrocities. So if that's the only difference you can see, I have a few others that pop to mind. The Nazis were a government. The Nazis had an army. The Nazis had an air force. The Nazis had submarines. The Nazis controlled from France to Poland in all of Europe, whereas Hamas can't even control Gaza effectively. I mean, I find the statement that you can't see any differences between the Nazis killed
Do you see a
over.
moral difference?
Well, okay, but
Dave, he has to have it that way to justify all the atrocities he's going to justify in a little bit.
hold on. But you said that wasn't what you said. What you said is that you can't see a
That's
difference.
what
The
every-
Nazis, okay, but yes, I see a moral difference. The Nazis killed over 10 million people outside of the war conflict, just in terms of people that they killed, let alone the tens of millions of people who you might hold them responsible for. So yes, I do see a moral difference between the two. I'm not saying October 7th was horrifically immoral, but if you're going to say, do you see a moral difference, that would be like if somebody had murdered two people and you went, I see no difference between that and the Nazis. Okay, yes, they're both immoral, but there's enormous differences between the two. Now, to the other point of the idea of, can Israel eliminate Hamas, even if they were, which I don't think is feasibly possible, that they eliminated everybody who is a member of Hamas. I mean, in order to do this, you would have to look at, you know, if the images of Gaza City aren't enough, you would have to look at images 5 times over of that, and this is going to result in just slaughtering innocent people, not to mention the excess mortality where hundreds of thousands of people are going to die as a result of this in the future. But even then, you would just be dealing with another Hamas-like group. Because if you don't understand what creates this problem to begin with, look, this is the problem. This happens all throughout history, all throughout the world. If you want, there's a reason why the Nazis only rose. First, it was after we imposed Versailles. But then, as you know, it was after the Great Depression, when there was hyperinflation. When things go terrible, that's when the worst, most violent extremist groups rise.
Dennis,
and that's what the future is going to be,
Can I
unfortunately.
respond just very briefly
Sure,
to that?
and then Dennis can go. Yeah.
How do you think it's going to be now? Now that gas is going up to like $5 a gallon, how do you think it's going to be around the world? Israel has gotten us into a world war. Like they don't know this at this point in the debate, but you at home, you should know that right about now.
Something really staggering has happened in Gaza since October 7th, which is there have been protests against Hamas. For the first time there were protests actually recently in 2019, but they were quashed by Hamas in a very aggressive, violent way. But the people of Gaza, the innocent people of Gaza, yes, who you mentioned, are speaking out against Hamas because Hamas is stealing their food and their aid, and they are seeing, I mean, they've known all along the role Hamas plays in their oppression. But the fact that Hamas has lost support in Gaza since October 7th, while gaining support massively in the West Bank, right? I mean, which speaks to how different the Palestinian populations are in the different areas. I just don't buy it that Israel is creating more and more Hamases and Hamases and Hamases. I think that there's evidence that actually the opposite is happening, that the people of Gaza are seeing we have to get out of this cycle.
Go ahead, Dennis.
And isn't that real convenient when you want to take their land? Yeah. How do they get out of that cycle? They leave. They go somewhere else. And that's what we're trying to do now, is find a place to put all the Gazans, because they can't live there no more. It's a pile of rubble. You destroyed everything. I guess you just have to make it into a Riviera.
Now, because the internet has a permanent memory.
I'm aware.
Of saying that there's no comparison morally between Hamas and the Nazis.
No,
you changed it.
Yes, he's on the
well,
record.
For the record,
That is correct.
you changed what I said a little bit.
Yeah.
But sure.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. So
No, I didn't say that.
Wait. All right, you don't. So you think morally they are similar? Yes or no?
You said I can't see anything different about them,
Yes,
except
and I was
that the Nazis.
everyone knows
No,
I was
listen,
talking morally. Of course, Hamas does not control the same number of countries.
Mr. Prager, what's beautiful about the internet is what you just said. It is on record, so people can see what I said, and then they can see what you
That's
said.
demagogic.
That's right.
Go ahead, sir.
There is no moral difference between the Nazis and Hamas. Both want to exterminate Jews. That is what we're talking about.
I'd say there's no difference between the Nazis and the Israelis anymore. I view them exactly the same, and it's just sad to see America getting on the side of the new regime.
Not whether or not the Hamas has taken over Czechoslovakia. That's an irrelevant point to what I made. There is no moral distinction. Hamas would like to butcher every Jew in Israel, maybe in the world, I don't know, but certainly.
As if the government of Israel wouldn't like to do the exact same thing, like they're trying to do in Iran. At the moment, while we're talking, not while y'all are talking, while me and you were talking.
In Israel. It's in their charter, and that's what they announced. They're proud of October 7th. They are proud of rape. They are proud of burning Jewish families. And the Nazis were proud, but the Nazis hid it, and Hamas boasts about it. That's the one difference.
Jake, go ahead.
Again, that's the one difference. See,
Yes.
you make the point again. That's not the one difference. There's other differences also. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Alice in Wonderland. If anybody watched this debate and they didn't know what was happening in the world, they would think, oh my God, I guess Hamas is this giant power and it's been abusing Israel this entire time.
Yeah.
Poor little tiny Israel. And Hamas is this gigantic power crushing Israel. What are you guys talking about? Hamas has got pea shooters. They did terrible damage on October 7th. Now Israel's done 30 times worse to the civilians. They've massacred civilians after civilians after civilians. Israel is Goliath. It is not David. It is the Germans in terms of military power. It is not the Jews. The Palestinians are the equivalent of the Jews during the Holocaust.
Exactly.
They have been put into ghettos, and they have said, you have no freedom. You will serve us and serve us only. And right now they're saying, we're going to have permanent occupation. And wait, so were the Jews not supposed to fight back against the Germans? Do the Palestinians, hold on. Do the Palestinians not have a right to defend themselves? Does it only go one way, where Israel can crush? And how dare you lowly Palestinians fight back? How dare you? Now we'll kill 30 times more of you and we'll occupy you forever and ever and ever. And we're supposed to accept that? Are you guys nuts? They're never going to accept it. Never, ever. Batya, I love you, but if you think that the Palestinians are now more anti-Hamas and more pro-Israel, you have lost your mind. They despise Israel, and they will fight. And hold on, this is the most important point.
Rightly so.
They are going to fight Israel forever, not because they hate the Jews. Oh my God, they're Nazis. Oh, for no reason at all. They were just walking by, and all these Jews came by, and they hate them. No, they took their land, and they still have it. They have them under their thumb. They can cut off the water, the power, the food, and they have, and they're starving them to death. And you think that, what, they just coincidentally hate the Jews, and that's their driving ideology? No, they're fighting you because you're occupying them. This is the most obvious thing in the world. Why did the Armenians fight the Turks? Why did the Greeks fight the Turks? Why did everyone fight the Turks at the end of World War I and the end of the Ottoman Empire? Not because they hate the Turks, but because we were occupying them. And if the Greeks said we want to kill them all, which they did, that did not give us a right to go back into Greece, occupy Greece for 75 years and go, how dare you defend yourself? You hate Turks. We get to kill you forever.
All right, we'll pick up on that because this is a legitimate question that I think Batya, since he named you, you can go ahead and ask. What does legitimate Palestinian self-defense, if there is such a thing, even in your eyes, look like?
Right, well, so that's what I would ask Shank. Is everything that happened on October 7th legitimate resistance because the Palestinians are occupied?
Great question. So I condemn Hamas for killing civilians. I also condemn the IDF for killing civilians. And now the IDF has killed 30 times the number of civilians that Hamas did. And I
bit more than that now, Cenk.
know you guys are going to dispute the numbers because that's a very classic thing that people on the oppressor side do.
How many Hamas soldiers do you think have been killed?
Hitler would
I
argue.
just want-
Hitler would argue he didn't kill 10 million of y'all too, or 6 million, or whatever y'all claim. He would argue against that too. So, how are you any different? Like, these are just similarities. You're going to start to see them looking more and more. The next thing they're going to get Hugo Boss to design them some uniforms.
A number. How many Hamas soldiers?
So,
do you
first
think
of
were
all,
killed?
in terms of the numbers, I go with what is internationally recognized by news organizations and human
what's
rights
that number?
groups.
How many Hamas
and
soldiers
those
have been
groups,
killed?
so those groups say, no question that the health ministry, if anything, has been conservative. Well over 33,000 dead overall. They do not know how many of those are Hamas. Israel's at one point made up a number.
Well,
like,
Hamas said
hold on, let me just
6,000.
finish. Let
Do
me
you
just
accept
finish. Let me
Hamas
just
as a
finish.
number?
I'm almost
I'll
done.
come back.
At one
Yeah.
point, the IDF made up a number 13,000, and then a couple of weeks later, they changed it to 9,000. So it was obvious that it was made up. Do I trust the 9,000 number? No, because the IDF. Everything they have said so far has been disproven by news organizations and human rights organizations. So I don't know what the number of Hamas it killed is, but it is a tiny number. And based on the numbers, even if you took the IDF numbers, the 9,000, already the civilian to military ratio is significantly worse for the IDF than it was for Hamas. So if Hamas are dirty terrorists who went and killed those poor civilians along with the soldiers that they killed, well, then the IDF is also obviously terrorists.
Go ahead,
Shane,
Batya.
do
Amen.
you accept Hamas's number that 6,000 of its soldiers? Would you accept Hamas's number that 6,000 of its soldiers have been killed?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so you believe Hamas
Because they're
no
going
matter
to.
what.
No. I don't believe Hamas. I'm saying that at a minimum.
Okay.
Because Hamas
Let's
could be
accept it.
underestimating, but they're not going to
Let's take
overestimate.
6,000. I mean,
All
okay,
right, go
fine.
ahead.
So, well, I mean, I sort of object morally to taking Hamas at its word and then assuming that the idea
I
is lying. But
object
anyway,
morally
okay.
at taking
All
Israel
right.
at its word.
So, but
It's been a far worse
why don't-
oppressor.
Let's get to an average. How about,
And also known to lie quite a bit more. Quite a bit more.
80,000,
Okay,
whatever it
let's
is.
move past the number.
What
Yeah.
is the civilian to combatant ratio that you would have accepted in this war? Is it zero? Like, what is the civilian to combatant ratio that you would have accepted as moral and just?
So when you look at the scope of conflicts across the world, not in the past, but in this day and age, after World War II and the law of war crimes were put into place, there are, generally speaking, some ratios that people find awful but acceptable. It's usually well under 2 to 1. So, for example, America would not drop 2,000-pound bombs. They wouldn't even drop 500-pound bombs in Fallujah when they were cornered. Israel's wantonly dropping 2,000 bombs all over the place, and that is why they have a worse civilian to military
What ratio
ratio,
would
kill
you
ratio
accept?
than Hamas.
What
So do you
ratio-
acknowledge, okay, let me ask you back, do you acknowledge that Israel's worse terrorists than Hamas because they're killing more civilians both as a raw number and as a
Shank,
ratio?
No,
So,
Shank,
Batya,
because
let's get to what the point that he's trying to make is what does legitimate defense on the Israeli part look like? And this is actually something I'd like to hear from
but that,
Dennis
but
as well.
that's,
The Palestinian part.
Well,
I
we'll
think
get
is
to
what-
both.
Oh,
He's
I'm
gonna-
sorry.
Jake
Okay,
asked
sure.
about the Israeli part,
well,
so we're talking about IDF.
I don't believe that you don't distinguish between intentionally targeting women with rape, babies, children, families intentionally being dismembered. I don't believe that you think that is morally equivalent to an army that is targeting combatants.
That's hilarious.
You
No.
think those are the same morally?
No.
This is just nonsense. How do you say they're targeting combatants when they blow up a hospital? I want you to explain that to me. How is blowing up a hospital targeting combatants? Like, those aren't all combatants in that hospital. I can guarantee you that. Hamas is not this big power. I would say it's very, very small, like over there. Like, it sounds like a lot because you hear it in the news a lot. I don't think it's this huge, like, it's definitely not as big as a country. It's not a country of them.
No, don't put words in my mouth. Let me just address that. No, I have to address that.
I'm saying I don't believe that you think those are the same.
No. First of all, We're talking about two different things here. So when you say, hey, do you condemn and do you find it morally acceptable that they killed the children and raped, etc.? Of course not. That is totally morally unacceptable. But if you say, hey, Israel does not target civilians, that is, I'm sorry, but I think it's a comical point of view. And so they definitely, and by the way, this is really important though. When Hamas kills a baby, we all condemn it. Israel has now killed 15,000 children. And you know what they did? They crushed their skulls, they lit them on fire, and they burned them to death. And you know how they did that? With 2,000-pound bombs.
I do want to answer the legitimate
And they did it on
resistance
purpose.
question.
Wrap this
Okay,
up, and then I want to get to
answer the
Dennis as
question.
well, and Dave, because they both haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Resistance that targets, if Hamas had only targeted military, we would be having a totally different conversation.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yeah.
I think we would agree on that. Resistance that
But they didn't. What is your point?
happens in the West Bank that is nonviolent. I have a very dear friend who is the head of a nonviolent resistance movement in the West Bank. His life is impossible because of the double standard, the double legal standard between Palestinians and Israelis, which is unconscionable. Of course, that is totally. I know you don't know anything about me.
No, I just
Anything about you.
said I appreciate.
That's all totally awful. But we're going to do it anyway, and everybody's going to justify it because we're all Zionists. That's what she should say, because that's what she means.
Appreciate you acknowledging that.
Take the compliment.
That is totally legitimate resistance. Military targets, nonviolent resistance, BDS. I don't like it. I find it offensive. I find it a double standard, whatever. I support the right of people to resist through boycotts. That's like a time-honored American tradition. These are all legitimate forms. Using rape as a tool of war, not legitimate. And we all agree on that, by the way. So I don't think we disagree about this. It's just when you say that the occupation led to October 7th, it sounds like you're saying that it is justified by the oppression.
One second.
Okay,
Dennis,
sorry,
I want to
sorry.
get back to, so I asked originally what legitimate Palestinian self-defense, if it exists in your mind, looks like, and I would like for Dennis to be able to weigh in.
Legitimate Palestinian self-defense would be, we no longer want to destroy Israel, let's make peace. They were offered a state 5 times and they rejected it. Bill Clinton thought that Arafat was a phony, and he did everything possible at Camp David to give them a state. Okay, they don't want a state, they want to destroy Israel. And as regards Palestinians, how's this that none of you like to talk about?
Dennis knows what they want.
There are 2 million Palestinians in Israel as Israeli citizens with the same rights as Jews have in Israel. And not only that, they're pro-Israel. They are more pro-Israel since October 7th than they have ever been. And that is according to Arab sources in Israel. They're occupied. Why aren't they occupied? Why are 2 million Arabs in Israel so happy to be in Israel? Why? Answer that question.
Well,
if Israel wants to commit genocide against, you say genocide all the time. So why are,
if you're going to ask me a question,
no, I'm asking you both.
Okay, I'm sorry, you were looking at me and you pointed at me.
That's
so
fair enough. I don't distinguish between the two of you.
Okay, I will quote your debate partner. You don't know anything about me. I have oftentimes said that it is true that I would certainly say that I do think, while I wouldn't say they have exactly equal rights, the Arab citizens of Israel, if you were to be a random Arab citizen of any country in the Middle East, I think you'd rather be a citizen of Israel than a citizen of anywhere else.
That is important.
I 100% agree. That is important. And let me tell you something. If you were going to be a citizen in the United States of America,
Are they saying we should send money to all the countries over there so they can all be nice like we finance Israel to be? Is that the point here? Like, yeah, they want it because we give them money every year, billions of dollars, and it's a tiny New Jersey-sized country. We probably give them more money or almost as much money as we give to actual New Jersey.
or under Saddam Hussein's Iraq, you would much rather be a citizen in the United States of America. That doesn't justify the war in Iraq. That's the point. It is important. I give Israel a lot of credit. Israel is a great country. By the way, I think the entire Zionist experiment is really amazing when you think about it. That a group of Eastern European Jews sat down and said, we've been through so much that we want to form our own country in a land that we've never been to. We want to base it around a language that we don't speak. We want to get international financing. We want to get all this. And they pulled it off. They actually did it. And they made it a really great place to live for the people who are citizens of Israel. That's not really what's in dispute. The point is that there are 5 million people who are under land that they've controlled since 1967. And at a certain point, you can't just claim Like I've heard people argue, this isn't even really an occupation at this point. This is an annexation. They've taken this land and they've basically said
Do you agree that they were given the state 5 times in
No, I
return?
do not. No, I do not. And I'll respond to that. Okay,
right,
fine. So let me respond to that.
Yeah.
So you just said that you were talking about Camp David 2. In 2000, you said Arafat was offered everything and he turned it down. 2 things I'll say on that real quick. Okay, number 1, Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was the acting foreign minister at the time in these negotiations, he said himself in his book, and he said it on an interview in Democracy Now!, that if he was Arafat, he'd have turned the deal down too. And I highly recommend one book that I'll recommend for everyone to read, The Truth About Camp David, written by Clayton Swisher. This guy was a security guard there. He went around, interviewed everybody involved for 3 years after the fact. I highly recommend people read that book. The truth is that, yes, Bill Clinton threw Arafat under the bus after the negotiations, but
No,
Arafat wanted
Clinton under the bus.
Arafat wanted to continue the negotiations. The Israelis said no, and the Americans said no. That's a fact.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dennis. If you have any.
Yeah, no. Okay, so this is an excellent example. My motto on my 40 years of radio has been, I prefer clarity to agreement. We don't agree, but it is clear. You think the security guard at Camp David is a reliable source, and Clinton made it up that Arafat was responsible for rejecting it.
I don't think that
The vast majority-
I don't think that Jeffrey Epstein's rapist friend is a reliable source.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
agreed.
Okay. At the time,
I actually do trust Clayton
Yes.
Swisher. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. Okay. I don't like Clinton at all, but Clinton,
I knew I'd get you on that one.
Clinton, but you didn't get me. We happen to agree about Clinton's moral character as it developed. Certainly, okay. But
He
the
would
issue,
never lie.
no. Okay. So your claim.
Did he have sex with that honeypot or not? I think blowjobs count as sex, so that honeypot counts.
Is that they were not offered a state? Is that correct? Tell me yes or no. I want to understand.
Well, it's not a yes or no answer. It's not that they weren't offered a state.
Yeah.
It's that what they were offered, and by the way, we can listen to Netanyahu when he doesn't realize he's being recorded, and he's bragging about how much he fooled Bill Clinton because he put all these poison pills in the agreement, and therefore they would never really get a state. What they offered them was nothing that really looks like a state. It was you can have technically 96% of it, but there's Israeli controls all throughout it, and all these different sections are divided against each other.
So here's the big picture. I'll be very, very quick. The average Israeli would do anything to get the hell out of the West Bank and to have peace with their neighbors. That is what Israelis care about. They want to raise their kids. They want to have peace. They want to have prosperity. They want to keep producing the most advanced medicines in the world, as the Israeli medical industry does. They don't want to occupy Arabs. It was forced upon them. It was forced upon them in 1967. And one final key.
When they fucking moved to their land. Yes, it was forced upon them whenever they voluntarily chose to go take that land. What are you talking about?
Point. The Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and others all say all of Israel is occupied land, not the West Bank, not Gaza. Israel is occupied Palestinian land. That is what from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free means. No Israel.
So they're wrong for that, but Israel's not wrong for the Greater Israel Project, are they? They've got their eyes on like 5 or 6 different countries they're going to swipe some land from. But you don't have a problem with that because it's Israel. They're allowed to do that. You know, God's chosen people, right? You can't explain why, though. You can't explain why.
Glad you brought that up. We will be getting to the free speech topic on that. Cenk, you haven't been able to speak. I saw you objecting about the occupation, so go ahead.
There's so many things to object to. Look, guys, I'm not on either side in the sense that I want every Israeli civilian to be protected. I want every Palestinian civilian to be protected. And as a Turk, I'm in kind of the middle here as well, because we also occupied Palestine. We occupied a lot of people, right? So I've been on the Israeli side, and oftentimes when I hear you guys talk, you sound a lot like my Turkish relatives, to be honest. And that's not a great compliment.
No.
And I love my Turkish relatives. Sorry, guys. But when you talk about anything that's related to Turkey, Turks are the most angelic creatures that's ever existed. They never did anything wrong to anybody. Golly gee, them occupying. No, those people wanted to be occupied, et cetera, right? So looking at it, when I look at those peace negotiations, for example, I think that in the beginning, Israel was honestly terrible and violated almost every peace treaty they made. In the middle, they were pretty good.
Including a recent ceasefire, just to make it current again.
And then at the end now with Netanyahu over the last 20, 25 years, they've been awful, okay? So in the middle where they were good, it's actually not the Camp David Accords and the 2000 negotiations. There's other sources. There's one of the lead American negotiators. I believe his name was Robert Malley. I hope I got that right. He said, oh, this was a fraud. We never really presented a real state to the Palestinians. Jimmy Carter said the same thing. So, but Omer actually offered a pretty decent deal to Abbas if it was a real deal. And I think that he should have taken that. I even think that the deal in 2000, it was not great, but they should have tried harder. Arafat should have tried harder to take that deal, because I remember covering it at the time and thinking, guys, I don't think you get it. You have no leverage. America is going to cheat on the side of Israel from time immemorial. They have the greatest military in the history of the world. You guys have no leverage. Just take any deal, because you're going to be occupied forever. So I want him to take a deal, and I want it to be diplomatic, okay? But in the beginning, yeah, but like this idea that Israel is just, oh my God, they just offered everything. And these Arabs, they just always reject peace. That's ridiculous. After 1967, by the way, one of the peace treaty was, hey, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, especially Egypt and Jordan, recognize Israel, and then Israel was supposed to give back the Sinai Peninsula, and it didn't. And that's what led to the 1973 war. So these kind of violations have happened over and over again. So in terms, and I've got to clarify something that Dennis keeps saying. There's a difference between genocide and Holocaust. So is Israel trying to do a Holocaust of the Palestinians or Muslims or Arabs? No. They're not trying to kill every Muslim or Arab or Palestinian in the world. But that's not what a genocide is. Srebrenica was a genocide. That was 6,000 Muslims killed by the Serbs. They were killed because they were Muslim in the area that they were in, so they were targeted based on their race. The same with the Armenian genocide. Genocide means targeting based on race and usually ethnic cleansing. That is textbook what is happening in West Bank right now. And so when you talk about the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, Netanyahu wanted to split those two things up so that he could say, and this is, by the way, in the Israeli press, Times of Israel, Haaretz, etc. And the idea there is so that Netanyahu and the right-wingers in Israel can go, oh, we have no negotiating partner. We have no partner for peace because I don't know which one it is. And I don't, is it Palestinian Authority? Is it Hamas? Oh, look, Hamas is attacking us. Can you believe they're attacking us after 75 years of occupation?
Quickly, Dave, but then I want to get to Botcha.
Okay, well, yeah. 75 years of occupation. That is exactly the view. I'm glad you said it. That is the view. Israel itself is occupying Palestinian. It has nothing to do with the West Bank and nothing to do with Gaza. You said 75 years. That's how old Israel is.
Yeah. So, can I clarify? No, because I want two-state solution. I want Israel to be a safe haven.
So what does 75 years of occupation mean?
20 years we're not. 67. What difference does it make?
Oh, it's a big difference.
Well, I just want to notice, because as you're pointing out the strategy of Netanyahu to prop up Hamas, which is widely reported, and I saw you nodding at that. I think there's no denying it at this point. Hold on.
And humiliated Abu Mazen at the same time.
Right. So, but let's talk about this a little bit, because I think this all kind of ties together here, and it's one of the points that Dennis just made, where you said, look, Israelis don't want to occupy these territories, and that certainly is true. This is my point about being collectivist versus individualist. That is true for many, many Israelis. There are lots of them who were very happy. They were all behind Yitzhak Rabin. Let's make a deal. We don't want to be occupying these guys anymore, right? But then there's also members of the Likud party and people like Benjamin Netanyahu, and one of the explicit reasons, which he has stated in his own words and many high-level Israelis, I could read quotes to you guys for the next hour if you want. They've all said it. The reason why they wanted to prop up Hamas was not only, as Cenk said, so that the international community would never recognize Palestinians, but so that those Israeli citizens wouldn't be able to put pressure on them. Because if it was the PA in charge, so many people in Israel would say, hey, they want to make a deal, let's make a deal. And so the Likud party cynically, intentionally funded and propped up this terrorist organization that is every bit as bad as you've said, Mr. Prager. I agree with you on that. But here's the deal, right? So if that's true, which we all know is true, if that's true that the Likud party propped up Hamas so they wouldn't face internal pressure and they wouldn't face external pressure to give the Palestinians their freedom, then I'm sorry, that blows up the Israeli defense for this war. That, hey, it sure does suck that we got to kill these innocent people, but we got to get these Hamas. You propped up Hamas so that these innocent innocent people would never get their freedom. You don't then get to use that group as an excuse for why you can slaughter them. Sorry, no reasonable person can defend that.
For the record,
Israel's same excuse. We could use that same excuse here. Yeah, the Bloods and the Crips are really awful. They're terrible gangs. They do awful shit. We want to eradicate them. Oh, okay, so does that mean we go kill every black person? No, because every black person is not a Crip or a Blood, right? Just because a few people are doing some bad things doesn't give you an excuse to murder an entire fucking population of those people.
so that everyone knows, it was the Palestinian Authority, before the word Hamas was ever known, that murdered all the members of the Israeli Olympic team in the Munich 72 Olympics. True. That this portrayal of the Palestinian Authority minus Hamas as wonderful people is sick.
No, okay. But the point is they changed. Yeah, but the point is, see, but this is such a cheap. Sorry, that's such a cheap cop. That's such a cheap cop out to point to one atrocity in history. It is an atrocity.
All the blown up buses, all the blown up schools.
What happened in Yasser, Diana?
That was all PA.
Okay, so hold on.
Israel just murdered 15,000.
But I'm sorry. All right. Cigar. Can I just say one thing? Just one thing quickly.
No, we have to.
Sorry. All right. To just point to one atrocity and then say get out of jail free
I think it is objectively true that there has been atrocities that has been committed by the PLO and also by members, not necessarily of the Israeli government, but certainly the Israeli paramilitary organization. Sometimes the Israeli government as well. Batya, I do want to get the response. I do want to get the response to this whenever it comes to the genocide question, because that's one that is very hot right now, specifically for the American audience. This is a key point of the intra-left debate around Joe Biden and his candidacy. So, Batya, I would like for you to respond and to make the case around why Israel is or is not committing a genocide. We'll stick on this question and we'll get some responses from over here as well. So, Batya, go ahead.
I don't believe Israel is committing a genocide, precisely because of how Schenck defined the word genocide, which is the intentional targeting of a people based on their ethnicity or their race. And that's clearly not happening here. I mean, first of
We'll get to you, Shane. You're coming. Right.
Aren't you curious what I'm going to say?
You're up soon, but Dave is next.
It's just funny that the Zionists will always try to get behind your motivations, right? And then they want you to just trust these motivations, right? Oh, they're not targeting all that population. They're just blowing up a hospital. Like, what do you think is in that hospital, dummy? Like, it's the same thing. That's why they're always so concerned about your reason for what you're doing. You know, oh, you're saying that because you're anti-Semitic? They say these things and they use that crutch because they're thinking the same thing. That's a projection. Whenever they say that, it's because they are doing the same.
You know, they're not being targeted because they're Muslims or Arabs or Palestinians. They're being targeted because Hamas has embedded itself within a civilian population, right? None of us would accept, I hope, that if they had only killed, let's say 6,000 Hamas terrorists, that would be a genocide, right? We would understand that was a military campaign to rid Israel of a danger threatening to its civilians. These people who have been killed as a result of Israel's attempt to eradicate Hamas. And so to suggest that they are being targeted because of their race or I mean, we don't believe that.
By that same logic, Hitler had some issues with the Jews back in World War II times. Maybe he had a bad experience with those Jews, and he's just trying to get those. And he's just got to get them all just to make sure he gets the guy who pissed him off and made him hate Jews so much. That's the same rationale. If you're not even caring if you're killing innocent people, then it's just as bad as targeting them and trying to kill them. Like, you don't even care. It's the same thing. The same amount of people die.
Know that that's not the case. We know that if they were Palestinians living in Israel or living in Jordan, Israel would not be they would not be dying as a result of Israel's actions. And furthermore, you can point to all of the ways in which Israel has tried to move the civilian population out of the way. They moved 1 million people out of northern Gaza into Khan Yunis and into Rafah and into southern Gaza to get them out of the way. Now, I see you smiling. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh, she's proving my point. It's ethnic cleansing. But here's the point. I mean, it's either the ethnic cleansing charge and the genocide charge are a little bit contradictory, right? Okay. Because if they were trying to commit a genocide...
So disregard both of them. Disregard them both, because they're a little contradictory. Like, one kind of conflicts a little bit, but so just ignore them both then. How does that make sense? This is ethnic cleansing. They are trying to get all Israelis into fucking Gaza. That's why they're blowing up all the buildings.
and could just simply, eradicate the world of Gaza's Muslim population, surely they would not be moving civilians out of harm's way while they're trying to get rid of the presence of Hamas in a certain place or not.
Are you saying that it is more akin to an ethnic cleansing, or it's not a genocide?
I think it's really funny to both claim.
There's a good point clarifying that by the moderator. He's doing a good job.
That Israel doesn't do enough to protect civilians, and then to use a word like ethnic cleansing, like a nasty, accusatory, racist word, when they actually did try, like ethnic cleansing, like to suggest they're doing something, racist, when they tried to protect the civilian lives of the people living in northern Gaza.
I want to get Dave. Because you dominated last time, so Dave, you're up.
Okay, so look, I want to just say that in terms of the charge of genocide, I don't use the word genocide. I just think that the debate devolves into semantics every time you use it. The international legal definition of genocide is so incredibly vague that it's like if you try to destroy a nationality or ethnicity in whole or part. So then, like, if you were to murder 2 people of an ethnicity, is that I just don't even care about the debate. I'm saying it's wrong. And in terms of the term ethnic cleansing, there is no debate. Every single new historian in Israel concludes that there was ethnic cleansing at the beginning of the creation of Israel. Now, I know, I'm just making that point. I just want to go back to revisit something here, because I literally just made what I feel is the most important point of all of this, about that I think the entire Israeli defense is destroyed when you add in the component that they intentionally propped up Hamas so that the Palestinians wouldn't get their freedom. And as a response, Mr. Prager invokes an atrocity that happened once. And okay, that was an atrocity.
Only because I didn't have more
let
time
me just
to
finish. All right, well, let me just finish.
Atrocities.
Yes, I know you can invoke
spend the rest of the day or evening.
Yes, okay, can I just finish?
Non-Hamas Palestinian atrocities.
What happened to Deir Yassin? You want to have
Deir Yassin was 1948.
So what? Okay,
there is no war in the history of the world where you have not had.
So it's a cop-out. So
no, it's not a cop-out. I'm acknowledging Deir Yassin was awful.
Okay, so by the way, hold on. Let me just finish my sentence, and then you guys can continue.
So it proves what point?
Exactly, it proves nothing. My point is it proves nothing. Because I'm mirroring how your point proves nothing. You're just dodging. You're just dodging the point that I was making about this current war. Yes, it's objectively true. There have been horrific, ungodly atrocities committed by both sides.
Not both sides. That's a lie.
Come on.
That is a.
Oh my God. You could go and watch. Just turn on the news. I don't ever tell anybody to turn on the news, but go look at some news. They showed pictures of what was happening there. This is not anything he can substantiate in any way.
Libel. It is not true.
Oh, it's a libel. Okay.
You're other than Deir Yassin, which was during wartime of a village and absolutely terrible. Tell me where there's been Israeli atrocities comparable to Palestinian atrocities.
Gaza.
Go ahead. Everybody quiet.
Gaza. How's that? What you did in Gaza is an atrocity. Stupid fucker.
Name it, or you libeled. Name it,
libeled?
or you. Yes.
Wait, so why is the one I wait? Hold on. So the one I said doesn't count. Why? Because it was during wartime.
No, because it is an exception.
Oh, so
to make
it's an exception in my head, so that one doesn't count. Think up another one, and you better not. It better not be a one that my head is excluding too.
A generalization. Israel commits atrocities and Palestinian commits atrocities. You can't name one other than in 1948 in a village during a war. That is a libel of Israel, and you're dishonest.
Hold on. So, listen, you can keep saying the word.
Not even arguing it didn't happen. He's saying it did happen, but it's a libel because you're saying it about Israel. Are you fucking serious?
Libel. That's
yes, it is a libel to
okay, if you want to
equate atrocities on both sides. That is a libel.
What do you mean by libel?
Libel means, Israel is as guilty of atrocity as the Palestinians is a libel of Israel. I don't know why that's complex.
Okay. Well, hold on. Well, I was asked the question here. Well, I'm just saying, if wars don't count, then fine. But if you want to ask for the atrocity, it's happening right now in Gaza. So I don't know what point you're trying to prove.
So these are atrocities.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So this is the same as blowing up school buses.
Dennis just joined the debate. We haven't said that 5 or 6 times already. I think he just his medication just kicked in or something.
Of children.
I didn't say it's the same.
Equating them.
No,
yes,
I didn't.
Then you're using the same term.
You said that. I didn't say that.
Okay,
I'll be very, very quick. My point was that you mentioning an atrocity that happened in the past did not counter the point that I just made, that this destroys Israel's defense for this war. And I just made the point that I could name atrocities too. You're now claiming that I'm equating things that I never said were the same and accusing me of libel, which is tired. Sir, respectfully, it's a tired accusation.
They both commit atrocities.
Typical trick too. Next, he'll threaten to sue him. Call it a blood libel, call it some other made up bullshit.
tired. Okay, that's what's
No, that's
tired.
a fact. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
Okay, go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah,
Good
well,
argument.
he lives on
Okay.
a different planet. Okay, so first the genocide thing. Let me just finish that real
Yes,
quick,
I agree.
and
I
then
live on a different planet.
yeah,
I agree
okay,
with
all
that.
right.
First time we agree.
Okay, all right. So first of all, just finishing up the genocide real quick. Every genocide defender who says the same thing, and I don't mean it in a personal way, guys. I just mean that the Serbs literally at the International Criminal Court said, well, we didn't target them because they're Muslims. We targeted them because they were there and they were against us. The Turks said, we didn't target them because they're Armenians. It's because they struck us first and they did this rebellion and they were killing Turkish civilians. What the hell were we supposed to do? We had to move them and we had to kill them. So we had a right to defend ourselves. You're mirroring exactly what every defender of a genocide says. Well, and what I say back to the Turks, my own people, is, yeah, you didn't kill Norwegians, you didn't kill people from Botswana, you killed Armenians, and you targeted Armenians. And in the same exact way, Israel is targeting Palestinians. The fact that it's because they're there doesn't help that case at all. And you're moving them, you're killing them, and you're targeting Palestinians. That is a genocide.
America target Germans.
Okay, so hold on. I haven't even. That's just a quick point on genocide. I didn't even get to the actual thing because he's making a point about.
Your mate doesn't agree with the word genocide.
Okay,
it's
I don't
difference
care.
between
Okay, so I don't care at all. Okay, so there's a lot we don't agree on. He's a libertarian and progressive. So
We disagree on everything. It's just this is so terrible. We agree on this.
yeah. So now, right
I disagree with Cenk on almost everything. This is the only thing I think he's right on, really.
now. So, for example, Hamas killed 34 kids on October 7th. I came out immediately, condemned it in the strongest words. I can't believe it. Well, how is that helpful? It's immoral. It's counterproductive. It's dumb. It's terrible in every way. 34 poor Israeli kids. There are now 15,000 dead Palestinian kids. And you're telling me that Israel hasn't committed atrocities? So, guys, what we are seeing with our own eyes is that Gaza is decimated. They destroyed the entire place, and 85% of...
I would really like to be able to show a difference here from what it looked like, what they're talking about, what they saw, versus what it is today. Holy shit. Because they did a lot of murdering in the year and a half past this one when it got real bad.
Okay, sorry. And over 85% of Palestinians have been displaced. There's 1.1 million people starving to death, and you still can't see it. And that's what's amazing about bias, that you look at how they have killed over 33,000 people. Okay, say 6,000 is a must, say 9,000 is a must. You still have 25,000 dead women and children, and you go, what atrocities? They have kill zones. Why did they kill the 3 Israeli hostages? Because they were in a kill zone. In a kill zone, they murder everyone in the kill zone. There's sniper bullets in kids' heads because they were in a kill zone. They've killed more journalists than all other conflicts this year combined. They've killed 3 times the amount of humanitarian aid workers. The World Central Kitchen, they murdered those people. There was a 6-year-old who was stuck. They told the IDF, we are going to get her. The IDF said, okay. The IDF goes and finds her. They'd already killed her, the rest of her family members in that car. They then killed not only the 6-year-old girl, but everyone in the ambulance that came to rescue them. And you're saying you can't see a single Israeli atrocity? And one last thing. They have kept these people... Hold on. And the last atrocity is keeping 5.5 million Palestinians prisoners. And Prager says, oh, not 75 years, only 57 years we've kept these people prisoners. And think about the absurd claims that you guys are making. Oh, the Palestinians are fine inside of Israel. I can make the same exact claim for black people during slavery. Well, they were fine in the North. We had a democracy in America. What are you guys complaining about slavery in the South? They were treated perfectly fine in the North.
Last point there. We actually have to do a quick read from our sponsor. So, Dave, if you don't mind.
Do we have to do a quick read?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, guys, you know what I love? Debates about Israel and Palestine. But you know what I hate? Woke corporations. Peekballer.com today.
Of Germany stopped when they surrendered. If Hamas surrendered tomorrow, gave up the hostages that are still alive, I'm sure they killed quite a number. But nevertheless, if they did that, if they surrendered and that would end the issue, it would end the issue the next day. Israel doesn't want to bomb Palestinians. The reason that there are so many Palestinian civilians being killed, whatever the number it is, and that is a tragedy, it is not an atrocity. There's a difference between tragedy and atrocity. Atrocity is deliberate, tragedy is not deliberate. Israel does not deliberately target civilians.
It's not an atrocity as long as you don't know how many innocent people are in the hospital. Like, if you just blow a hospital up, that's not an atrocity because you don't know how many people are in it. There you go. Not an atrocity.
Us deliberately puts civilians in the way of targeting them. That is the way in which they have created it. One other thing, you will probably know this because it was in Newsweek. A member of the United States military who teaches at West Point said that Israel has been the most moral army in urban warfare that...
Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Like, this is a debate. A literal debate that they film and they're putting on the internet. Who cares what one journalist said? Like, I don't even think he said his name. Like, one journalist said it's not, they're awesome. Israel's awesome. I can go find a bunch of idiots like you two, and they'll all say Israel's awesome too. What's it mean? Nothing.
That he has ever, you laugh at him. That's correct. That's right. You're allowed to laugh at him. He did write it, and so did the head, Kemp, Richard Kemp, the head of all British forces in Afghanistan, said that Israel, the IDF, is the most moral army he has ever encountered. Which, given that he is a member of the British Army and is a high-ranking, I think, a general, that is particularly powerful phrase.
What does that mean? You would say the same thing. Because you love Israel too. Just because he's in England doesn't mean he's not a Zionist. England has plenty of Zionists.
That's the truth. They do everything they can not to kill civilians, and it would stop tomorrow if Hamas surrendered.
Okay. I know this is going to be infuriating for you guys, but we do have a clip that we want to play. This is going to be on Iran. Feel free, we can come back to this in a little bit, but I do think it is important. So this is a clip which has been curated for us by Zero Hedge. This is Benjamin Netanyahu on the topic of overthrowing Iran, something he's advocated for since the 1990s. And specifically, we want to focus in after the clip.
This is 2 full years before they actually did it, too. Just so you know how long people have known what Israel's plans are. Everyone knows. They just pretend not to know.
About why the U.S. should support Israel in its endeavors, in its defense against Iran if it chooses to do so. Let's take a listen to the clip now, please, and let's see it.
Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how to achieve it. The application of power.
And so that clip, I wanted to turn to you guys. Dennis, actually,
what year was that? I'm sorry. What year?
2002. That was December 2002, prior to the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Right. Dennis, you just spoke, so Batya, I think we can go to you. This is specifically on the Iranian question.
This is why I love seeing all the Zionists show up in the comments so I can argue with you. You're really stupid if you pretend like you didn't know they were going to do what they're doing in Iran right now. He was on it. It's very out there. Everyone saw it. So now when you come up with your bullshit justifications, everybody knows. Everyone knows.
And I think about U.S. support. We are in America, after all, as to why should the United States, should it defend Israel in the Iranian retaliation for the Israeli bombing of what the Iranians claim was an embassy, of what the Israelis claim is a IRGC military outpost. So why don't you go ahead, and then I'll get some response from Dave.
I think the question is a little bit backwards. I don't think Iran would have retaliated from Iranian soil rather than from a proxy, as is its wont, had it not picked up on signals from the Biden administration that it was weakening in its resolve and its support of Israel. So that is the question here. Is I think the order is reversed.
Yeah,
and I think that it is historic that Iran attacked Israel from Iranian soil. And so it is extremely significant that, according to, my analysis, many others, that was the direct result of Biden's wavering support, which can be attributed to, 100,000 voters in Dearborn, domestic politics, let's say, right?
Okay.
The youth vote, what have you, right? His need to signal, I'm not behind Israel in the way that you think, to the people who he thinks need to hear that in the United States. As for whether we should support Israel and its retaliation against Iran, I consider myself an America First person. I think probably we would agree when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. I do think this is significantly different because, the Iranians and the Houthis, they're not only chanting, death to Israel, they are chanting death to America. They do see us as linked from a values point of view with Israel.
Wonder
Most
why.
Americans agree with them. And so it seems to me to be sort of odd to say, well, the Americans who think that are wrong, the Iranians who think that are wrong. We also get a lot of extremely material benefits from our allyship with Israel in terms of military intelligence, which has saved.
Which is always go kill our enemies for us. That's the intelligence we get every fucking time. They didn't tell us about 9/11, and they definitely knew something was going on. I'm not going to say that they were involved, but they definitely knew something was going on. And we didn't get any alert from our greatest ally. The one thing you're good at, and you didn't help us on that day? Very suspicious.
Countless lives, both American and Israeli and European, in terms of our military-industrial complex. Maybe you don't think we should be, have an industry that makes trillions of dollars to the United States GDP that's based in weapons, but we do, and Israel has made us a lot of money in that regard, and actually sacrificed developing its own military-industrial complex that would have competed with ours.
Why would they need it? Why would they need it when we give them everything for free?
So arguably, I actually think this is true. Israel loses more by getting American aid than it gains.
Great.
Although,
Then we'll stop.
although I think America probably gets a lot out of that, but ultimately that is a question for voters to decide. I would not be at all, that is a question for voters to decide. I do think we are linked in the mind of Iran and in all of the minds of their proxies, and that's why we should be supporting Israel.
Dave, go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, I completely agree that Israel is great for the military-industrial complex. So, if that's your pitch for why we ought to support them. Look, I would highly encourage people to educate themselves about
Thank you, Israel, for all those targets to go kill.
this if they haven't already. I'd encourage people to read a piece called A Clean Break, A New Strategy for Securing the Realm. I'm sure you're familiar with it, sir. It was written by Richard Pearl and David Wormser in 1996. And this was a letter from two people who both served in the George W. Bush administration, very influential neoconservatives. And they did not write this letter to Bill Clinton, who was the president at the time. They didn't write it to Bob Dole, who was the Republican nominee running for president at the time. This was written to Benjamin Netanyahu. And it was all about how regime change in Iraq will be in Israel's interest, because then you can break up this peace process that Yitzhak Rabin started down, and we won't have to do this anymore. You'll have security in the region. Benjamin Netanyahu coming in 2002, testifying before Congress as a regional expert, explaining how if you overthrow Saddam Hussein, there's going to be peace in the region. It will have this sweeping effect where it makes everything better. Aside from the fact that they all got it all wrong, and not just wrong, but like disastrously wrong, the biggest catastrophic disaster in modern American history level wrong. I just do not understand how you can square the circle of claiming to be America first and also claiming we must unconditionally support a country who is clearly trying to pressure us into anti-America first policies. Look, this is just a fact, okay? Every president of my lifetime, Trump might be an exception to this, I'm not sure, but everyone else wanted
Dave hadn't got to that point yet. He's not.
a two-state solution, including, believe it or not, George W. Bush. After 9/11, Colin Powell, who was the wisest member of the George W. Bush administration, I don't think anyone would argue against that, he still sold the war in Iraq, even though he didn't believe in it, so he'll have to talk to his maker about that. But he told George W. Bush right after 9/11, you got to do a two-state solution, and you got to do it now, for two reasons. Number one, you got record high approval ratings. This is the time to get it done. But more importantly, because he knew this is what drives so much of the terrorism problem that we have. It's not that Iran sees us as the same as Israel. It's that they recognize that we've been propping them up. We're the ones who shoots down the resolutions at the UN. We're the ones who funds them and arms them. Okay? And what happened? George W. Bush couldn't get it done. It was Tom DeLay. John Mearsheimer has done great reporting on this. It was Tom DeLay in the House who told them, you'll be a one-term president if you even try to do this, okay? Every American president has wanted a two-state solution. Again, maybe not Donald Trump. But the rest of them all did, and they couldn't get it done. All I'm saying is if you're America first, how can you...
Oh, I thought he was talking about just being a Zionist shithead, but because he did vote for Trump. So I was thinking he maybe was thinking that. I didn't know that. I misunderstood. Yeah, Donald Trump is just as bad as George Bush and all the rest. That's where we're at now. At this point, Dave doesn't know that, though. That's why I was a little confused.
Support the fact that we have a political system where our elected representatives get rebuked by a foreign country. That is not America first.
The reason he would have been a one-term president is because the American people would have rebelled, right? Not because Bibi Netanyahu would have come here and made sure that
No, I'm sorry if you're going to ask that. No, it's also because there's a giant, powerful lobby advocating on behalf of a foreign government who makes it their mission to ruin the lives of anybody who's critical of that foreign government. That's a part of it too. By the way, the evangelical Christians, that's also a big part of it.
So yes. The idea, can I just need to respond?
We gotta get Dennis in here. Okay.
I'll yield.
All right.
Then I'll speak. I'll yield and then speak. Okay.
Well, but like the idea that some lobby is the reason that an idea has power in the United States is completely backwards. The lobby gets its power because it is representing where, like, the majority of Americans are at. A lobby on its own. You think the NRA?
You don't think it's shaping it a little bit?
You think that the NRA is the reason that people have guns in America? Really? You
no,
don't
the
think
NRA
that?
are a bunch of sellouts.
Sorry,
Jay.
No, but the idea, like, it's a very good parallel.
Americans have overwhelmingly supported Israel. If there was no AIPAC, they still would have supported Israel.
Let's take a poll, motherfucker. I guarantee you that poll ain't gonna go the way you like. Not today.
So then why do we need an AIPAC?
Oh, because
Why do we need an NRA?
Yeah, exactly. All right, fine. So you.
I don't think we need AIPAC either. Israel would be just fine without it because the American people have its back.
Let's find out.
Whether we need it or not is not the question. The question is, why do they exist, given the fact, which is fair, why do they exist? Because people lobby politicians on behalf of what many Americans support. Americans to this day and every poll still support Israel, as it happens. So the arguments that have been offered here, it really is a different planet. Just for the record, this may come as a shock to the two of you at least, perhaps many listening. And I would put my hand on a Bible, I would take a lie detector test.
Catch on fire.
Obviously, there's no way I could prove this. When I remember sitting at the edge of my bed watching this, and I never watched TV. I watched Arafat and Rabin shake hands, and I had tears in my eyes. That is how badly I wanted peace. I supported a two-state solution nearly all of my life, certainly since the Six-Day War when I was a college kid. I have always supported it. I no longer support it, just like nearly every peace activist in Israel no longer supports it. And we don't support it thanks to Hamas and thanks to the PLO, because they have made it clear.
Oh, so some terrorists did some things. And so now you don't think that the people who aren't terrorists need peace, right? Your convictions changed because some other bad people did some things. Is that what you're saying? Because you just said that all the people over there support Israel. So if they're supporting you, why would you not want them to have a peaceful solution? How would that change you? It's almost like you're lying.
If Israel leaves the West Bank, they will get another genocidal, you want to use the term, a genocidal terror group of Nazi-like Hamas people running it. Why have there not been elections? Why is the PLO not allowed elections for, what is it now, 16 years? Because they're afraid Hamas will win.
Agreed. I agree. I just want to, because I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, what a tragedy that peace deal didn't work out. And I totally take you at your word at that. I was just wondering if either of you guys would respond to the point that I made before, that you just kind of brought up the Olympic atrocity after that.
Just hold on,
but it's just so if Hamas is so horrible, and I know you guys would both say Iran finances Hamas, and so they're evil for that. What about the government of Israel doing it? Do we have anything to say about that?
Right. So when I'll tell you. I'll give you an answer. The United States.
Israel admitted to propping up Hamas. They've already admitted it. So why is it bad when Iran supports them, but not when Israel does it? It's just like everything else. It's because Israel can do no wrong.
States supported the second greatest mass murderer in history after Mao, Stalin, in order to defeat Hitler. It is very common to support scum to defeat bigger scum.
Who's the bigger scum than Hamas?
The bigger scum was those who wanted to destroy Israel.
Okay.
But isn't that Hamas?
You're right, so it's both.
So that
invalidates your argument.
No, it doesn't
Anyway,
okay. No, you just have no argument. Who's the bigger scum? Who's worse than the Nazis?
Please.
You're right. No, other Nazis.
Okay.
You're right,
Okay.
they're equivalent.
Okay.
I don't understand. Why is that? Why is that?
That's not an answer. I'm
Batya
sorry.
needs to respond. She's been trying to respond, and then we have to bring it back to the Iran question
Wow.
too.
Sure,
I have two main responses to that. I think it's a really important point. I don't disagree that it was a disastrous, in hindsight, disastrous. At the time, I thought it was disastrous because, as you say, it's not just, it wasn't that Netanyahu was giving Israeli taxpayer funds to Hamas, but he was facilitating the transfer of cash from Qatar. Okay, so let's just be very
sent the head of Mossad to Qatar to make sure the cash came back in, specifically for the reasons of keeping Hamas in power, so he didn't have to give him a.
Wouldn't it be really nice if we didn't have to know all this shit? Like, we didn't have to look into all this and be able to name all this shit like they're doing in this debate? Like, if we just cut the cord and let Israel fend for itself and cut it all off, I don't think we would have to do all this. What? Why? Why? It's so insane.
But it's not that he is giving them the money, right? It's not coming from Israel. I just want to be clear. There are a couple things I want to point out about that. The first is he didn't do that because he thought Hamas was capable of October 7th. He did that because he thought they had no power, that they had no real ability.
He thought he could control the height of the flame, were his words.
Just hold on, Dave, please.
Yes, he thought that they were less of a threat to Israelis than the potential of a Palestinian state led by Abu Mazen. And as a result, he humiliated routinely Abu Mazen, who was represented the non.
Oh, well, his bad then. Now we got to go blow up all the kids. He fucked up then. Why are you punishing the people like that live there? Like, you propped them up. Why are you punishing the people who had nothing to do with that?
Violent camp. That it was were criminal at the time, and in hindsight, even more so. But to say that he was propping up the people who then would do October 7th, I don't think that is fair. Not because I don't.
I didn't say that. Yeah. Sorry.
It was a different Hamas. Maybe it was hummus. That's what it was. That's why we're confused. It's hummus. Hummus did that.
Because he was doing it out of a complete misunderstanding about what they were capable of. And the second point that I would make about that is you left out something very important in your narrative of how things went from like the beautiful Israel that like was coalescing around Rabin to the like horrible Israel in which Bibi Netanyahu was able to cobble together with much difficulty, by the way, the ruling coalition that he has now that I'm sure we would all agree is not the one we would like to see in power. Not that we're stakeholders or voters there, but you left out the second intifada, which is extremely important. 1,000 Israelis, 700 of them civilians, murdered, going to school on the bus, children murdered, blown to pieces. That was the equivalent of 50,000 Americans dying over the course of 4 years. That changes a nation. That is the reason that the Likud vision was able to get to a place where not a ruling majority, but was able to come.
Why don't you think that second intifada happened?
See, if they were in this current time period, we could always say, hey, Israel got us to blow up some all-girls school to get them back. So now we're even.
During the Oslo Accords, and it wasn't until Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli.
I just think that this disrupts your clean narrative of Bibi Netanyahu being the person who propelled, who enabled October 7th to happen as some sort of.
I think that point's been made, so Cenk, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I haven't spoken since we started the Iran part, so I have about 12 things to respond to. So I like that Dennis acknowledged that Netanyahu and Israel did prop up Hamas. So there you go. Now
I was kind of expecting him to lie about that too.
we know.
Truth.
Yeah.
But she gave the answer. He did not know what monsters he was supporting.
Oh, he didn't know who Hamas was?
He had no idea.
Come on. Okay, and it's because he wants
They were choir boys before that.
a permanent occupation. And I'm glad that Dennis just acknowledged he also wants a permanent occupation.
No, I don't. I'm not for two states now. I
So
pray
what's
for
this
two
answer
states
then?
eventually.
Eventually.
Okay, yes,
So,
but not
57
now,
more years,
not now. It will
75
be-
more years,
it will be-
100 more years.
No.
How long should they be your servants?
As soon as Hamas...
Your prisoners. How long would you like to keep the
They're
prisoners?
not prisoners. As soon as Hamas...
They're literally prisoners.
As soon as Hamas gives up,
No,
surrenders...
because that's his position. He just said he doesn't want it.
When were we prepared to make peace with Germany? When the Nazis came out of power. If the Nazi-like Palestinians are out of power, I would have peace.
So once Hamas comes out of power, the Israeli government propped up so they could be in power once they're all gone. So is it up to them to go fucking do this now? Should they start rooting them out and murdering these dangerous terrorists that the Israeli government set up to run them, to govern them? That seems weird.
Peace the next day.
Yeah.
But remember, it's not Bibi Netanyahu's fault because he didn't know they were bad fellas before he let them be in charge of the whole place.
Okay, that's all right. So he says, okay, an indefinite occupation where we will keep the Palestinians under our thumb and our boot, and until they know their role, then maybe we'll consider freeing them. But until then, they will have to serve us. Okay,
Someday.
Christian of you or whatever it is that people say these days. Okay, so speaking of Christians, there's a giant Christian Zionist movement here, and they are also part of the reason why the polling turned out okay for Israel throughout a lot of our history. But by the way, they are now greatly dwindled, and that is why the polling for Israel in America is not as good anymore. And by the way, the fact that Israel has made Netanyahu has made a deal with the devil, with those Christian Zionists, is abhorrent, because if you push them on what they plan to do, they said, oh yeah, we love Israel, because then Jesus is going to come back after
They
Israel.
never say that. I know
They
them, but
definitely say it. They've said it 1,000 times.
They're saying it a lot now. Trump's spiritual advisor is wanting this. Yeah, the one that talks in tongues, the weirdo. Yeah, trust me, this is gonna get scary.
Okay. And then he's going to murder all the Jews.
I'm a Jew,
Congratulations
and I'm
with
telling
doing a
you,
devil
he doesn't know what he's
deal
talking
with the
about.
devil. Okay. So all right, guys, come on now.
All right, fine.
Okay, so and AIPAC. Look, Batya, you just said that Israel's helping us because they helped the military-industrial complex, and they have lobbyists just like everybody else. These lovely lobbyists. Okay, I don't think you realize how unpopular those comments are. So yes, AIPAC is definitely lobbyists, along with the Christian Zionists. They definitely influence politicians. The reason Tom DeLay said you'll be a one-term congressman is because he said the Christian Zionists will turn on you, and the evangelical base will turn on you, and AIPAC will turn on you. AIPAC's about to spend.
Right the first time.
No, they're both. Okay, so hold, guys.
Go, continue.
Okay,
Continue, Jack.
so if you guys are saying that the $100 million that AIPAC is promising to spend in the next election is not relevant to the politicians, that these politicians are angels, they would never consider millions of dollars given to them in bribes, I mean campaign contributions. And that actually determines almost 95% of elections, not the AIPAC money, but lobbyist money overall. That they don't take that into account because Joe Biden's an angel. He took $11.2 million from AIPAC, but that didn't affect him at all. He's the #1 donor that got money from AIPAC in United States Senate history. Who's the #1 donor for Speaker Johnson? AIPAC. But you guys say no. Ted Cruz, AIPAC. No. Those beautiful angels would never be affected by the bribes, I mean campaign contributions that.
Yes, people of that religion and nationality, the Israeli people, they're really known for being very generous with their money.
AIPAC is giving them. And by the way, it is not just AIPAC. Guys, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, they love this war. Are you kidding me? A giant war in the Middle East, they're going to make so much money. You're talking about the oil companies are going to make billions, maybe trillions from this. All of those different lobbyists are bribing both the Republicans and the Democrats. So there is massive money that is going into this potential war. Now, this war, we've seen this movie before. It was the Iraq War. And yes, morons, warmongers like Netanyahu said, oh, we're going to be greeted as liberators. How'd that turn out for us? Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. I am not going into Iran. I will do a massive rebellion inside America, and I bet I get a ton of right-wingers and a ton of left-wingers, and there's not a single American troop that's going to go into the Middle East to die for Netanyahu. Not one.
Uh-oh. Chink got one wrong, I guess.
You try to send one of our guys into the Middle East. We're going to stop paying taxes. It'll be a massive tax rebellion.
You know what?
I'm not going to give
one. We just stop right now, man.
Dave,
Let's not even wait for this war.
Dennis, I think to return to the Iran question, you can respond to that as well, but make the case for why the U.S. military should defend Israel against Iran as well.
I did not,
in some of your comments.
You didn't say the U.S. military. You said whether America should support. I did not suggest.
Fair enough.
Israel
I said U.S. support.
Israel
You're
has
right.
made it clear all of its existence. It doesn't want one American soldier to die in Israel or to fight in Israel. Okay, I just want to make that
just
clear.
The money and the jets.
That's right.
But they sure do send them over there for a chance for them to die, don't they? You know what? If they don't go, I bet they won't die over there.
Right, that is correct. Just the money and the jets. That is right. So if you feel that supporting Israel is immoral, fine. That's the clarity that I aim for.
Oh, it's definitely immoral.
Yeah, it's definitely
They're
immoral.
imprisoning 5 million
That's right.
Palestinians.
That's right. I see. Okay.
They're oppressors.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
They're not imprisoned. They are occupied. They are not imprisoned. Okay.
If you can cut off the water, the food, and electricity, what is that?
He let you talk.
The rape of the
We
word.
couldn't even do that to prisoners in America.
He let you talk.
Not barely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
The left has mangled language. I say raped, and people get angry. Well, aren't you raping the word rape? No, look up rape in the dictionary. There are two definitions, like the rape of the rainforest is not a sexual act. They have raped the word genocide. They have raped the word racism. They have raped all of these words that actually once meant something. And that's what is being done now. This is not genocide that Israel is engaged in. The number of Palestinians has increased by 5-fold since Israel was created. If that's a genocide, we should all suffer from such a genocide.
Did their population go up over 70 years? Really? Or 56 years, 57 years, whatever? Did it go up? Didn't it go up everywhere? Except now that now that the population's dropping, but up until that point, wasn't it going up everywhere pretty much?
And have such growth of our populations. As regards Iran, so this is a legitimate question. Is it in the United States' interest, purely as Americans, that Iran thrive or that there be a regime change? Let's say we can't do a regime. I understand that. I'm asking in theory, what would be more pro-American? A pro-American Iran, which is a very powerful country and a particularly intelligent.
We're going to bomb them till they love us, right? Is that the plan here? We're just going to keep bombing them till they love us? Like, I don't think you're going to make them love you by bombing them more. That's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard from somebody who claims to be an intellectual. Are you fucking serious?
People. And what would be better? Having these vile theocrats from the Middle Ages who kill women and arrest women who aren't properly dressed in public. This is what you guys want us to say it doesn't matter? We left Afghanistan, which.
So is this a war for feminism? Is that what you're telling me? I don't care what they do to their women. That's not our problem. We don't want to be there because we don't want to finance it. It's not our issue. Like they have their issues and we have ours. We shouldn't be paying to do anything over there.
I assume you guys were supporting that we should leave Afghanistan. I did not support leaving Afghanistan.
Of course not.
Because I knew the hellhole that the Taliban would create, and I don't know why America first.
So you hear his plan right here to just occupy all of these countries forever because they're terrible people. So we just stay there and we just keep a presence there and like spend trillions and trillions of dollars just having bases in every fucking country where they have bad people, just bad people who don't support your feminism that you're wanting to kill people over.
First means it's okay if people who want to destroy us take over a country. I don't understand why that's America first. And I have one other comment on America first. I wrote a copy.
Because they can want all they want. They can't even reach us with a missile. Like, I don't think they think they're going to take us over. I think they're trying to get us back for fucking supporting Israel and all the evil shit they do to them. This is so fucking dumb.
I'm on this, and I stand by this. This is really important morally. I am America.
Is he claiming that they flew those planes into our towers thinking that was going to somehow make this country become their country? They don't think they're going to take us over. I don't think that's in their head.
First, my life is a perfect example of a lifetime given to defending America and American values. But I am never and will never be America only. There are higher values than just your country. My country is first.
He'll always be America and Israel and no one else.
But it is not the only moral question in my life.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Dave, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I think it's kind of look, if you're just saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if like the repressive Iranian regime was gone and then like a regime that came and gave liberty to their people? Yeah, sure. That'd be great. That I don't think is necessarily a relevant question. I also don't know who would disagree with you on that. I'm sure there are some people. I'm certainly not one of them. The fact is that
Hamas would disagree with me.
Right. I'm not one of them.
Okay, so you're sort of defending, but you're not one of them.
I'm not even kind of defending Hamas, but whatever. I'm actually the only one. I'm criticizing Israel for propping them up. But anyway, so yes, that would be great. The point is that people who supported the war in Iraq, like Benjamin Netanyahu, like I'm sure you did, sir.
No,
right?
I didn't.
You didn't?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm wrong. I apologize for that.
Let me just say very quickly.
That's fair. I shouldn't have said that.
No, that's fair. No, you don't have to apologize. It's very understandable that you would assume that I did. But there was proof. I was on hardball with Chris Matthews, and he was shocked when I told him that I am not supporting us going into Iraq.
Okay, so I give you a lot of credit for that. Then.
So it's recorded.
Did he sexually harass you?
Let me just say, no, he did not. I felt bad about it. But I will say though that once we were there, I did believe that we had to prevail.
Okay.
And stay forever, like you just said. You didn't even want to leave whenever they finally did leave, 20 years later.
Fine, fair enough. So let me say, I'll amend that to say, all of the neoconservatives, Benjamin Netanyahu, the people who supported us going into the war in Iraq, well, what was the effect of that? We handed the country essentially over to Iran. And all of this wisdom, which was so ridiculous, so you had Saddam Hussein, a longtime enemy of Iran. They fought a brutal war together where 500,000 people on each side died. By the way, America backed Saddam Hussein while he was doing the most vicious things that he had ever done. He was a Sunni minority oppressing a Shiite majority. And their scheme was, if we overthrow this guy, this will put pressure on Iran to be more democratic. And all that happened was it gave more regional influence to Iran. And then, actually, the attempted regime change in Syria that Obama failed on for multiple reasons, I think actually kind of similarly to what you guys were talking about, he was sending these weapons into the anti-Assad rebels. They saw, as John Kerry admitted, the rise of ISIS. Obama called them JV. I think it's very similar to the way Benjamin Netanyahu looked at Hamas. I can control the height of the flame. And then they invaded Iraq, and he was like, hey, you guys weren't supposed to do that part, right? But what happened, what was the effect of that? Was that the Syrians were more reliant on Iran than ever before. What was the effect on the Saudi-U.S. war in Yemen? That the Houthis became more reliant on Iran than ever before. So yes, we would all like this magical scenario where Iran becomes a free country, but in reality, the policies that Israel, as well as most of the neoconservatives in this country have pushed, have been to the opposite effect, has only made Iran more powerful and more influential in the region.
Go ahead, Batya. I wanted to get a response.
I don't really disagree with
Okay,
that.
all right. Well, Jake, you
There you
want to
go.
say something?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to read your
We're
book.
going to wrap this segment.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So, bunch of things here. So, are the mullahs in charge of Iran vile theocrats? Yes, they are. And so I was born Muslim. I'm proud to be Muslim culturally, but I'm an atheist now. So they would consider me an apostate, and trust me that I'd be the first one on the chopping block. So I got no interest in the mullahs. I got no interest in the Grand Ayatollah. I don't want to help them, support them in one way, and they've destroyed what was a beautiful, awesome culture in Persia. Okay, so now, having said that, is the answer always war? No. North Korea is a terrible, despotic, tyrannical government. It doesn't mean that we should invade North Korea. Tons of South Koreans would die, Japanese would die, would get embroiled in a horrible war. And with neocons, I always feel like their slogan is, I forgot the question, but the answer is war. Okay? And so we had a deal with Iran under Obama where we stopped their enrichment of uranium and we took all the uranium out of the country. That was a terrific deal. And I criticized Obama a lot, but that was one of the things that I gave him a lot of credit for. It was one of the best things he did. It was maniacal to get out of that deal. Now they're enriching uranium. How did that help? And the only reason why it helps is because the neocons want them enriching uranium, so they have an excuse to start that war. And Netanyahu and Dick Cheney and the others have been very clear, but John Bolton, Lindsey Graham, all neocons, all very clear. They have wanted this war with Iran for decades now, and they want us to fight it. They want American boys to fight it. They want American taxpayers to finance it. And that is not the right answer. And so, and when you turn back to Israel, what is the one thing that Israel has done that has been a spectacular success in terms of all these conflicts? Was the peace deal with Egypt. Peace actually works. Since that, not a single bomb has gone between Egypt and Israel. And Egypt has complied with the peace treaty. So the idea that, oh, peace won't work because those Palestinians or those Hamas guys, they're just going to do it forever and ever. That's exactly what they said about the Egyptians. And it wasn't true. Peace leads to peace. War leads to more war.
It's not a good point. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wish it were a good point. I do. I really wish. It's wishful thinking. The Israelis gave a piece of land, I think it's larger than Israel, back to Egypt, filled with oil, a great buffer in case of a war, and they gave every inch back to Egypt because they trusted Egypt. That's why, and they especially the president at the time. So that's the proof of the point. Israel is not aching to keep Arab land; it is aching for peace. Egypt is the point that.
Care to explain why they're invading Lebanon then? What does Lebanon have to do with what they just started in Iran if they're not trying to get land?
Makes my point. If they trusted that the Palestinians would act like the Egyptians, there would have been peace a long time ago.
Well, I think,
you know that back then, historically, the Israelis did not think, oh, the Egyptians are wonderful, we can trust them.
They did
Listen,
under what was his name? The great Egyptian leader. No, the great Sadat. Under Anwar
he was
Sadat,
not a great leader until he got to the peace treaty.
Because he came to speak in the parliament. That's what changed their minds.
Well, look,
an Egyptian leader comes to the Jewish parliament.
Listen, the fact is that.
So they just need their leaders to come kiss Israel's ass, and then they'll be okay.
And as a libertarian, I don't love this, but the fact is also that the U.S. bribed both Egypt and Israel with $3 billion a year forever.
Could have more to do with it.
No, look, the reality is that, Cenk, you have to at least admit there's a point.
Egypt is on our top 10 list of people that we give money to now, right? That's our bribe that we pay to them to play nice with Israel. Like, that's just a fact.
Point here. Egypt and Israel went to war 4 times
That's right.
in 25 years or something like that.
Yes.
And they made a peace deal
Yes.
and they gave it up. Now, all I'm saying is that there's a lot of people today, and it's totally understandable, that people today would go, look, things have gotten so bad between the Israelis and the Palestinians that they're just never going to be able to live in peace. But at the same time...
No one says never, but they can't
Okay, let me just
now.
finish my point. At the same time, France and Germany are right next to each other, man. England and Ireland are right next to each other. And that should at least be maybe something all of us could agree on, that it's not that crazy. And by the way, you could go from being like horrific atrocities to a very short period after that being relatively peaceful with each other. And I do think Cenk at least has somewhat of a point that they did make this land concession for peace deal and it stuck. And that could be, and you're not going to tell me there's not a radical Islam problem in Egypt.
They tried to make a land for peace deal with the Gazans. They completely withdrew, and they got Hamas as a bonus.
Can I ask you, why
they did not?
To put the peace process in formaldehyde in their own words.
This is actually worth digging
Also,
into.
the France-Germany analogy, etc., doesn't work, and I'll tell you why. Because Jew hatred, and that is what is.
So his excuse is going to be some bullshit he has made up in his head, right? Jew hatred. That's why no deal works with Israel, apparently, because that's why they can't live up to ceasefires or treaties or any of the shit they agree to.
Fundamental to Iran and fundamental to Hamas, not fundamental to all Arabs, but it is fundamental to those ideologies, is exterminationist. No Frenchman wanted to exterminate Germany. No German wanted to exterminate France. That is, by the way, that is very important that people understand this. Jew hatred is different from all other hatreds, and the world is filled with hatreds because it's exterminationist. The Passover is coming up, and there is, in the Passover service is a 2,000-year-old line.
So wait a minute. Germany didn't invade France because they wanted France. They invaded it because they hate Jewish people. Like, I don't know if there are a lot of Jewish people in France. Like, I'm not even sure of that. Like, how many Jewish people are in France just for them to go and exact revenge on the, 1% of their population? Like, probably lower than that. Like, worldwide Jewish population is like 2% of the, like 0.2% of the global population. So are you saying they attacked France so that they could kill maybe like 10,000 Jewish people that are in France? That doesn't make any sense at all.
It's in Hebrew, but I'll say it in English. In every generation, somebody arises to annihilate us. Not to oppress us, not to enslave us, to annihilate us. This is unfortunately ancient and recurring.
Why? Just because people are so possessed by evil Jew hatred?
It has nothing to do with them picking fights with everybody they ever go around, right? The Israeli people have fought with every country in the Middle East just about. And still, it's never their fault. It's just because everybody hates the Jewish people, even though it's a secular nation, right? So it's just so crazy to hear them like conflate that like that. maybe they hate you because of the way you act.
It does seem that
Well,
way.
one second.
It does seem that way.
We'll
yeah.
get Cenk in here because I think it's a legitimate question around the formation from back in 2005, the rise of Hamas, because it's a contentious issue and it leads to this. So go ahead.
Yeah, so look, the fact that Jewish people across the world have basically PTSD from the Holocaust and the pogroms and all of the discrimination and massacres that have been visited upon them is super understandable, very, very understandable. But that is part of what is blinding you to the fact that you are no longer David, you are Goliath. And so when you talk about the Germans and the French didn't want to exterminate each other, wait a minute, Germany and Poland are right next to each other, and the Germans wanted to exterminate the Polish, and that they were part of the people that suffered extermination under the Holocaust. And there are so many examples of people living side by side who hate each other because they're the two tribes next to each other and they've been warring forever. So again, another example is Greece and Turkey and Cyprus. And if Turkey had decided to keep all of Cyprus when they invaded Cyprus, they would have had to occupy the Greeks for all of these decades. And what would have happened? The Greeks would have done terrorism, right? And we would have had Greeks and Turks killed back and forth, back and forth. Instead, Turkey took about the percentage that they had in the population and let the Greek side go and never occupy them. Occupation is a cancer that always leads to more violence, more terrorism, more conflict, more war. You have to end the occupation. And Dennis, one more thing. Look, you think that you got this thing in your head that, oh, the whole world hates Jews, and I understand where it comes from.
Why do you say that?
You're talking about the history of...
He just said every couple, they're always going to rise up to get us because of the Jew hate. That's exactly what he said.
Said Jew hatred is unique. It's exterminationist. I don't believe the whole world hates Jews. I didn't even imply it.
Okay, so it is, no, I understand.
Then why is someone to rise up every period of time? I forgot, I think he said every decade or two, they're going to rise up because of all the Jew hate. Why would they do that, though?
Understand that, but look, that's actually ahistorical. It is not true. In the Middle East, Jews and Muslims lived together in peace for hundreds of years, sometimes thousands of years. The Turks rescued the Jews from the Spanish Inquisition. So there's an enormous history of Muslims and Jews working together until Israel. When in reality, in Europe, the Christians slaughtered the Jews over and over and over again. If you're saying that anyone had an exterminationist ideology against the Jews, it was the Christians in Europe. It's not the Christians today. It's a totally different situation. But what you've done is
That is a very good point. I do actually feel bad for the Jews who are not Zionists because they are going to get a lot of Jew hate that you're creating because of what Israel does, and they're secular. So that's really kind of fucked up, and I don't think it's right. I don't ever condone people like hating on Jewish people just because they're Jewish. If they're not a Zionist, leave them alone because they have nothing to do with this.
You think that the Palestinians are the Nazis when the Palestinians are David. They're a group that has been brutalized for these 75 years. More land taken, more humiliation. Their power, water, electricity, their energy is controlled by Israel. Israel comes in, strips their men naked, parades them around, humiliates them in every way, and now has murdered 25,000 women and children. And you still see as poor little Israel, and it's the bad Muslims that are going to exterminate them. Whereas you're actually denying them a state. You're actually denying them freedom.
All right, go ahead, Batya.
We're denying. They're denying Hamas a state. Forgive me, by that. They're denying Hamas a state. They're denying the PLO a state. They're not denying the Palestinians.
Right, they're doing this because Israel has a right to exist, but Gaza doesn't. Apparently, like. Maybe Jesus should have said more about loving the Gazans too, since we're just, pretending like he means the same Israel that didn't exist 90 years ago.
And it was impossible to negotiate and make a state. They were for a Palestinian state. You keep going back to 75 years, which is the giveaway. That's what they believe. We've been occupied for 75 years. And as regards Israel being David or Goliath, vis-a-vis a handful of Palestinians, they are militarily, they are a Goliath. That is, and thank God they are.
All right.
But they are a small. Israel is as tiny as New Jersey. The Arab world goes from the Atlantic Ocean to the Persian Gulf. There are 52 Muslim countries. I wouldn't exactly say David is Goliath.
Okay. All right. Well,
sorry.
We've got 25 minutes left, and I wanted to bring it back to a U.S. topic, free speech topic, that I think would be helpful for the audience. The U.S. Congress, actually the House of Representatives, just yesterday passed a resolution condemning the Palestinian chant, quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," affirmed now by our Congress as anti-Semitic. So my question to the panel, and Bacha, I'd like to start with you because I know you've spoken on this topic, is do you believe that that chant, "From the river to the sea"?
That should have been everybody's first sign that Trump was turning right there. Because as soon as I heard about that, Brown University, you can't even get in if you have a history of saying things that are against Israel. That's an American college. Why can't you criticize another foreign country and go to college? But that was the first sign when Trump turned. That got me even more than the first Iran attack 9 months ago.
Palestine will be free is anti-Semitic.
It's so funny because I said to Dennis, I hope we can get through the whole debate without the word anti-Semitism, because I think it's a real turnoff to
What were the odds of that? Everything's anti-Semitic to you two.
People. I think it's irrelevant, really. Like, we're talking about anti-Zionism. It's, we should talk about that.
Well,
we're talking about Israel.
Is that anti-Semitic?
We're talking about Israel, and it's a line from Hamas's charter. Okay. So, I have very dear friends who are Palestinian, who are very far left, who would say, I don't mean it in an exterminationist way. I mean that whole land should be a democracy where everybody has civil rights like in America, and it's a totally secular state. That's what it means to be free. They mean Palestinians will be free just like Jews. That's how I mean it when I say it. That's what they tell me. And I believe them because they're my friends and I love them. But it is a line from Hamas's charter. And so if I think the burden of proof is on the people chanting it to prove that they don't mean it in an eliminationist way that would wreak havoc and violence on Jews. Like I said, because it's part of the...
This is a conflation anyway. No one said Hamas should get Gaza. No, kill all of Hamas. I don't care about that. Don't kill all the Gazans, though, because just because you're in Gaza doesn't mean you're part of Hamas. This is a conflation she's making on purpose, I think.
Charter. And, if somebody was started to walk around chanting, a line from another extremely vile terrorist group, the burden of proof would be on them that they don't mean it in that way. On whether it's anti-Semitic, honestly, I'm so not interested in that question. I think there's a lot of very good-hearted people on the right who have been so traumatized by the accusations of racism coming from the left. They're just so sick of that. And so I'll just stay with that. I don't know. I really, honestly, I hate when Congress passes resolutions that have to do with speech. It makes me very uncomfortable. But at the same time, I think, Jews don't like hearing this because it makes them think of Hamas. So there's a tension there. I don't like government getting involved.
We are changing our laws because some Jewish people don't like to hear that. How is that different from what England is doing, right? How is that any different from what England is doing right now?
And I honestly, I'm very offended by the idea that Jews need to be protected from chanting. I feel like we're descended from the Maccabees and we need to man up, and it's not dangerous and it's not scary, but it is kind of gross. Okay. That's where I am.
Dave, go ahead. Well,
you're God's favorite people. I mean, he chose y'all, right? So I think you can be tough and just let people say bad things about you. I don't care if Iranians say death to America, as long as you stay the fuck over there and say it all you like.
I appreciate that last thing you said. Look, I mean, the United States of America's federal government should absolutely never even get involved in what they feel about a chant. That is an outrage in a professed free society. I do not care what anybody in Congress feels about a chant. Whether you think it's anti-Semitic or not, you can yell anything anti-Semitic, anything anti-black, anything anti-woman, anything anti-Muslim, because this is the United States of America, and we have a right to say what we want to say. The First Amendment is very clear. Federal government, get out of anything having to do with speech. So now, I kind of more or less agree with you. I've talked to different people. There are certainly some people who swear up and down they don't mean anything against the Jews. They just mean that, hey, they wish the Palestinians who were refugees could return to where they came from. I think there's definitely other people who mean something against the Jews when they say that. I think that's kind of the nature of this conflict and this protest. But so, go ahead.
Well, okay. By the way, I agree with you on the free speech issue. I'm virtually an absolutist. And I'm very afraid of the American future because 45% of young Americans say that they believe in free speech except for hate speech, which means that they don't believe in free speech.
Yeah.
So the left,
the audience.
the left has done a real great job in undermining the Constitution on the most important principle, probably the First Amendment.
And you are the one who brought up the "from the river to the sea" chant that bothered you so much before.
That's okay. So
I don't remember Dave or Chink bringing it up. Like, it was you.
we a rare moment of agreement here on that.
Well, if we go to dinner later, I bet it won't be that rare. We probably agree on a few things.
Maybe. All right. But on the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," even in its most innocuous, yes, we'll just have a secular state and we'll all get along, hunky-dory and kumbaya. I'm sorry, but I do believe that with 22 Arab states, the need for a 23rd is not particularly essential. I think one Jewish state on the face of the earth, the size of New Jersey, smaller than El Salvador, is a perfectly okay idea. There is a Hindu state called India. There are non-Hindus in it, but the Hindus, it is a Hindu state and Hindus make the majority. I'm happy that there is a Hindu state. There aren't two Hindu states, and Nepal may theoretically be considered one, but there's really one. Yeah, that's right. It's right up your alley. Yeah, so you know, and that's why I
didn't want to interject too much.
No. But I know a lot about India because, as I told you earlier, I love visiting there. I've been there quite a number of times. Yes, at its least violent, from the river to the sea means no more Jewish state, and if one is intellectually honest, one acknowledges that.
Okay.
I think I agree with that.
Jake, I want you to
that's
go.
big.
Right.
That's important.
Do you mean the people you've been oppressing for decades, they don't want you to exist? Yeah, so what? Who cares? Is that an issue? I don't want my enemies to exist either. I'm not going to do anything to make them not exist, probably, unless they start something. But I'm not, so what? What's your point?
I call that chant a dumb chant and not a good idea, and I took a lot of heat from people on my side. And so I said, look, if some people think that it's a genocidal chant, why do it? It's counterproductive. It doesn't make sense. Now, having said that, Netanyahu said the same exact thing. So Congress is a joke. Are they condemning Netanyahu? Because he said, from the river to the sea.
The Likud Party's founding charter has almost the same thing. It's like everything west of the Jordan River or something like that.
How about everybody who says Judea and Samaria? That is the same thing, that Israel gets to control from the river to the sea. So that is genocidal. That is exterminationist. So let's be honest.
No, Chink, it's only that way whenever you do it against Israel. It's okay when Israel does it against other people. That's the issue.
Let's be principled. Let's apply things equally. Of course, our Congress never does that. Yes, because of the donors and the lobbyists, and everyone out there knows that. And so when you talk about a state, and so this is the part why I don't understand two things that Dennis is saying. So number one, on the 22 Arab states, so what? That's not the issue. Are you going to drive them into that? That's ethnic cleansing. Going back to the Turkish analogy, if the Turks said, what, there's all these Christian countries. I don't want the Armenians. Why don't you guys take them? Well, just drive them into Russia. We'll drive them into Georgia. We'll drive them into Europe. You guys take them. There's like 30, 40 Christian states there. What do we want with them? And then I don't want a one-state solution in either direction. And again, that will antagonize some people on my side. Because if we have a one-state solution where everybody actually gets the vote and it's not an apartheid state, the Palestinians will outvote the Jews in Israel, right? And then the Jewish state doesn't exist anymore. Israel shouldn't agree to that. Israel's never going to agree to that. And I agree with that. So that one-state solution is definitely wrong. But
sounds kind of anti-democratic, don't it? I thought we were doing this because we love democracy. Weren't we bringing democracy to Iran? I thought I'm confused here. That doesn't really make much sense to me. If we're supposed to be doing this to prop up democracy, how are you not letting those people vote? That's crazy.
Dennis, I don't know what you think is not now, but not permanent. I don't know if it's 2 years, 20 years, whatever it is. But that indefinite occupation is one state. But 5.5 million people are living under apartheid government. Well, you could use any word you like, apartheid, occupation, imprisonment, but they clearly have no rights. They have no rights.
They have
and so that
rights.
one-state solution.
They have the rights we decide to let them have. That's so kind of you.
is a disaster.
See, that's again, God, here we
people
were.
in
I was
West Bank and in
celebrating
Gaza?
how much we agreed on, and now you blew it.
Yeah.
They have rights. They don't have complete rights. That is true. There is such a thing.
So the rights we decide to let you have, right? Because you're going to argue you're not oppressing them. You're not over them in any way, but they have the rights you allow them to have. Not all that we have, but some. You can have some. Just we don't know which ones yet.
You want to know where there's no right? There's no rights in North Korea. You use the North Korea example. There are no rights in Iran, basically. There are plenty of rights. They don't have the right to foreign policy. They don't have a right to have an army. They don't have a right to have a police force.
Right. Only Israel gets that right. Like the Gazans can't have that, even though they were there first. Okay, that sounds fair.
There's more freedom than in Iran?
Do I think that in Gaza there's more freedom than in Iran?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, you mean? Oh no, I was thinking of Hamas. You're thinking of Israel. I think Hamas.
I'm saying regardless.
Hamas represses the freedom, not the Israelis.
So in the West Bank, you think they're substantially freer than in Iran?
Yes, that's correct. That's what I believe. Yes.
Translation. If Hamas is the one that's preventing them from being able to vote, which I don't know how they would do that, who propped them up? Who admitted to propping them up? Netanyahu. So it's not you doing it. You just make some other guy be the bad guy. So it's not your bad thing, I guess, right? Is that the argument?
And you keep saying,
that's also true of the West
you
Bank.
keep saying, is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? I keep telling you that what would have somebody have said to an American? What are you going to do? Are you going to occupy Germany forever? No. As soon as the Nazis give up, we will. And there were occupied zones, by the way. There's French, Soviet, and United States and British. There were 4 occupied zones in Germany, and it became one of the freest countries on the face of the earth. And Germany was for Germany.
57 years.
Okay, because they had no choice. Israel, we already established that Israel gave up an immense amount of land to Egypt because they understood.
Are you advocating the type of bombing campaign that we committed on Germany, on Gaza?
No, I'm not advocating.
Well, I mean, this is the model you're going back to.
The better. Well, that's not a response to what I was talking about. We were talking about occupation. But fair enough. So my answer to you is I don't know. And by the way, neither do you. What would you want is I never hear the people who are anti-Israel answer the question, what would you want Israel to have done on October 8th?
Okay,
I'll answer it.
Yes, I do want to hear an answer.
I want answers from both of you because it's a great question.
Okay, so I think the most important thing to understand is kind of what we were talking about before, right? Is like what, and I'm answering your question here, but just saying, keeping in mind what was going on before October 7th, which was for years, as we've all conceded here, that the Israeli government was propping up Hamas and also had this very arrogant attitude, like we can control the height of the flame, like Obama talking about ISIS, they're JV.
You're not answering my question.
I said, I literally said,
what should Israel have done?
See, this is, now you're just trying to bully me. I literally said,
Dennis,
I said, let me just give you a little bit of background.
Okay,
No, because
go
I'm
ahead.
leading into what the answer is. So again, my point is, well, first of all, no more doing that. No more propping up Hamas and underestimating them. Listen, the idea, October 7th was not even like.
Maybe Israel should go and clear out their own people that they propped up to be in charge, right? If they're so awful, go get rid of them, but stop killing all the civilians. Is that hard to understand? They didn't elect Hamas to be in charge. Netanyahu propped them up.
Like 9/11.
Admittedly.
It wasn't even like, oh, there was planes used as missiles into a building. We never could have seen this coming. They can say that intelligence report was on Bush's desk, but he got thousands of intelligence reports. And it's not like it said the World Trade Center. What happened on October 7th was the thing that Israelis should have been concerned about the whole time. So number one, all it takes was not relying on the robot machine guns and having a military presence at the border. So immediately secure your borders. Number two, a real investigation into what happened on October 7th. What were the failures here? How did it take so long for the response time? Not this Netanyahu, we'll wait till the war's over and then we'll figure out, like it's not the time.
And how did the greatest spies in the world not know that? How did they not know it was happening in their own country? That seems really weird for the greatest espionage agency in the world. Like, that's the only reason we have them as an ally, because of all the great intelligence that they never give us.
No, I think after that, Netanyahu should resign in disgrace. Then, in terms of the actual response, as Israel always did before Netanyahu. They always dealt with the terrorism problem with assassination campaigns, with special operations. Gaza is the most monitored place on the planet. They can pick these guys off even more important than that is immediately. Let me finish my answer. Yeah, but those are the guys they're still negotiating with to try to get the hostages out. The other thing is the number one priority should have been the hostages. And it is self-evident that when you're fighting a war this way, your number one priority is not to get your people out. Look, Israel has all the chips. They got a ton of hostages, prisoners of their own that they could exchange for the hostages there, which is how they've gotten the hostages they've gotten so far out. And then after all of that, after hostage swaps, after assassination campaigns and special ops, you come to the table with a real two-state agreement again. You rise above it. Instead of turning the world against you, you win the world over by saying, listen, we took a big loss. We're going to kill or get the people who did this to us, but we are not just going to make life hell for the people of Gaza anymore. We're going to offer them their freedom. And I think there was a real opportunity to do
Jake,
that.
You want to answer the question, what should have Israel done on October 8th?
So I said this right from the get-go after it happened. So first of all, going with special forces, people say it's hard. Yeah. War is hard. And so when they started dropping bombs on the buildings, I was like, wait, what if the hostages are in the buildings? And I thought you said Hamas is in the tunnels, so how does it help to bomb a building? It's not like and then Israel brought in CNN. They showed them the tunnels at one point in the conflict about 3 months ago, and they were totally unaffected by the bombing. So it's
almost like they just wanted to blow up a bunch of buildings, so you can make everybody leave.
The idea that they didn't target civilians is just counter to every fact in front of us. So instead, I would have wanted them to target Hamas to try to rescue the hostages. And then the most important part is this is the time for a peace deal. So in the middle of nothing happening, Netanyahu isn't going to, or anyone else isn't going to rise up and be like, oh yeah, you know what, let's do a peace deal now. No, peace deals happen after conflict and after war. And so here we have already had 6 months of some of the worst conflict and war we have seen. This is when you make a peace deal. And how do you do it? Let's be specific about it, because it's not just generic. You do a deal with the Palestinian Authority, and then once they have the credibility of delivering a Palestinian state, they then come back into Gaza and drive Hamas out. So if you say that's going to be difficult, of course it's going to be difficult. Every part of this is difficult, right? But at least then they would have the credibility. We delivered the Palestinian state. And then that way they can drive out Hamas. And that goes to Batya's earlier point. Look, the people of Gaza are devastated by what's happened. They're not exactly, thrilled about what Hamas did in a lot of ways. If the Palestinian Authority delivers and Hamas didn't, then they have the credibility to actually manage that state. And you've got to look, if you're looking at it strictly from an Israeli point of view, you've got to get rid of the occupation. It is an albatross around your neck. It makes the world hate you. It makes you look like an international pariah, and it creates nonstop conflict, because no human beings on earth, no race, no ethnicity is ever going to say, okay, I accept being occupied and I will now bow my head to you. No, they will always fight you. And look at what Netanyahu just said. He said, I'm never going to give them a state. That means permanent war. That is definitely not the answer. The answer is make that peace deal today.
Batya, go ahead.
I mean, neither of you has mentioned actually Netanyahu's biggest crimes since October 7th, which I think from my point of view are, number one, there was a plan on the table to identify Fatah members living in Gaza and to have them train in Jordan to become a police force in Gaza with the cooperation of Israel. And he nixed that. And that was a plan that was handed to him on a silver platter that would have given them the credibility that they need. He also allowed Bezalel Smotrich to nix a plan to allow flour into Gaza through Ashkelon.
This all sounds like pork to me. Like pork in a bill, you know how they'll just shove in all kind of extra shit. Like we got to teach, Ugandan women how to, make TikTok videos or whatever. They just shove these little projects into all the fucking bills that they pass. That's what this sounds like. Because why would you turn that down? Like, why would you turn down having your own police state? Yeah, I'm sure there was some other shit attached to that fucking plan where it wasn't going to just be, we get to go have cops now. We can have some control. I don't think that's what they were doing. I'm sure there was some other contingencies in there. There always are.
Again, another thing that would have made it easier for Joe Biden not to do this sort of epic flip-flop. So I'm not saying that there are not mistakes that have been made. I think those two mistakes are, incomprehensible to me. But everything else you guys described is exactly what Israel was doing. The reason they have dropped these 2,000-ton bombs was to get at the tunnels. You keep saying, oh, they didn't get to the tunnel. That's why they were using so many more munitions. And yet, I keep coming back to this, but the combatant to civilian ratio was not higher than it was in Fallujah, despite the fact that they were using such heavier artillery, because they were doing that in order to access these shelters. I agree with you both that they made a decision that getting rid of Hamas was more important than the hostages. I think that, again, when Netanyahu meets his maker, as you say, he will have to, answer for that. I don't know what the right answer to that question was, but I guess I would ask you guys, does the will of the Israeli people in terms of it being a sovereign nation play no role here? I mean, aside from the fact that I think that the plans you guys described is pretty close to what the Israelis were actually doing. Does the will of the people in terms of, the polling suggesting that, Israel is less divided about, the need for military action right away? I mean, Dave, is it tolerable to you to live in a world where that man sitting on Shani Luke's broken, stripped body is allowed to live? I feel that it's intolerable to me to live in a world where that man is allowed to live.
That's a really good question. Well, she just asked me.
I asked Dave, I want to hear Dave's
question.
Well,
I would just say that, look, certainly, I get the feeling that you have. Isn't it intolerable that there wouldn't be revenge taken against this person?
It's not revenge, it's justice.
Okay. Sure, right, justice, whatever you want to call it. It's basically synonyms. But yes, that you would get the guy who did that is the point. All I'm saying, if that was a family member of mine, I'd certainly feel the same way. I would also point out, you have to also put yourself in the position of the Palestinians, that there's been lots of those people for them too. My point is that as a government, as a policy, no, the priority should be getting the hostages back, not getting justice or revenge or whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying that shouldn't be a close second priority, but the number one priority is that there are still innocent hostages who are alive.
Right.
We should get them back.
So that goes to my second question, which is,
if you want justice,
does what the Israelis wanted first matter to you? In terms of sovereignty, in terms of that question.
If you want to talk about national sovereignty, then look,
you're asking me. I just want to know, do you think it matters what the Israelis wanted?
Yes. Listen, I'm responding to your point.
Okay,
if you're talking about national sovereignty, I was asked a question about how I think Israel should respond, and I gave you the answer.
Yes.
In terms of the argument of what the Israeli people want for their government to do, if you're going to make that nationalistic argument, fine. Keep my tax dollars out of it. Okay? Let America not be a part of it. We do not have to pick fights in a battle thousands of miles away. It was the advice of all of the founders. They were unanimous on this, that this would be the death of our country if we embarked in these entangling alliances.
Okay.
That's my position.
Right, so
America shouldn't be involved.
And we're almost out of time, so go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. So I asked, what would you like Israel to do? And finally, when an answer was given, they should pick off Palestinian leaders and make an offer for a state. So you commit these horrors, kill more Jews than were killed in a day since the Holocaust, and we're offering you a state. I would think that
I'm thinking that more Gazans got killed in a day a bunch of times during that war. So does that need to be a talking point too? How many Gazans have gotten killed? I bet it's a lot more than has ever happened at one point in time. When have Gazans ever been attacked like that? So what's your fucking point?
the lesson that the Palestinians would learn is, hey, October 7th really worked. Look, the Israelis are sort of giving up, and they're not even striking us. What a great deal. It would be like the United States after Pearl Harbor going, look, Japan, we understand you have interest in the Far East, and we would like to accommodate you now. That would have been the analogy that I would think. So it would be a reward of atrocities. It would be counterproductive from an Israeli standpoint. And I keep going back to this. Even Israelis who want two states have given up for the time being, and I keep answering for the time being. Should Palestinians change? 70% of Palestinians support what happened on October 7th. But I got to say, the most depressing thing was what you said, like you say, atrocities on both sides. Your moral equivalence troubles me. That's the most disturbing thing I've heard in the 2 hours we've had together. That when she mentioned this woman who was murdered and her half-naked body paraded, and you said, well, I have lots of those people too. Lots of Palestinians. Really? Can you name one instance of a Palestinian woman paraded naked by Israelis?
No, that's not what I was saying.
What were you saying?
Just meant
I was just saying.
Tons and tons of
I mean, first
you were responding to the specific example of that Israeli
I'm saying the
woman.
feeling that a family member would have of their family member being killed and wanting to get justice against that person.
Fine.
That there's been lots of that on the other side as well.
Right.
That's my point.
Right.
The same way that somebody would join up with Hamas because their little brother got killed in some Israeli strike.
Right. Okay.
That's the point that I'm making.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Yeah.
So,
By
Jake,
the way,
Let's hear a counter to that. Come on, Prager. Let's hear a counter to that.
one other
Yeah.
point: the Israeli
move
opposition. You guys, even my dear Batya, and she is a dear soul, is not on the Netanyahu bandwagon. By the way, I'm not on the Netanyahu bandwagon, and I'm not on the anti-Netanyahu bandwagon. I don't give a hoot who the prime minister of Israel is, for a very good reason.
Sure.
The opposition in Israel, the left-wing opposition, has announced they hate Netanyahu and have announced we would do the exact same thing he is doing. That is relevant.
Okay, all right. Cenk, go ahead, respond, and try and keep it to 2 minutes, and then I'll get a last statement from everybody. Okay? All right.
So that last thing that Dennis said is deeply problematic for a reason I'll come back to. So first of all, on the sovereignty issue that Batya made, you got sovereignty to do anything you like, just not with our money. So, and the $4 billion we're sending every year immediately, as long as they keep doing the occupation. $14 billion is unconscionable. Shouldn't send $1 of taxpayer money. Don't tell me you want sovereignty and then come and ask us, demand us of our money and our weapons, etc. No way. Number two, you said that Israel's been trying to give them a state. That's not remotely true for the last 25 years, quarter of a century. They have not made any effort. In fact, they have gone exactly the opposite. Netanyahu is saying, I will never give them a state. They have propped up Hamas to make sure the Palestinians can never have a state. So they have been the obstacle to peace. If you say Hamas is an obstacle to peace, Netanyahu is 10 times the obstacle to peace. When you talk about kill ratios, and you say, well, isn't Hamas terrible because of what they did to these civilians? I always agree, right? Our side constantly says, yes, that is terrible. But when we say, okay, now when Israel did it 30 times worse, isn't that an atrocity? You go, how dare you? Of course it's not an atrocity because by definition, Israel. That's not an argument. It is they've now killed 25,000. Imagine a basketball arena full of women and children, and Israel has killed them all. And are you saying that the IDF is the most incompetent military in the world? Golly gee, we accidentally murdered 25,000 women and children by dropping 2,000 bombs on their schools, hospitals, and buildings? That's not an accident. We accidentally killed all the humanitarian, not all, but a lot of the humanitarian workers, the journalists, etc. Oh, by the way, the accidents including sniper bullets to the neck. These are not accidents. In your world, Israel can do no wrong. So if they do it, it must be because they were defending themselves, and the dastardly Palestinians deserved everything they had coming, including the imprisonment for 75 or 57 years. Pick your answer. And look, you say that you can't have the idea of a Hamas leader being alive. That bothers you. He should be killed. Well, Netanyahu has now killed 30 times as many people. So do the Palestinians then get to use your logic and say, I can't stand to have Netanyahu alive.
Right.
I want him dead.
All right, so we're going to have it. We've only got a couple minutes left, literally 2 minutes. So try, everybody, keep a 1 minute response. I would phrase it this way: instead of trying to respond to a simple question, let's just take the last thing you'd like the audience to be able to take away with. So Batya, we'll go ahead and we'll start with you.
I wanted to open with this, but I'm going to close with it instead. I'm going to mention all of the areas of common ground that we have here because there was so much of it. The first is, I think we all agreed that Hamas are terrorists who terrorize Israelis and Palestinians, and the world would be better off without them. I think we all agreed that Israel had a moral obligation to respond in some way militarily to what happened on October 7th. I think we all agreed that there are many innocent Palestinians in Gaza, and every death is tragic of those innocents. I think we all agree that if we could immediately remove innocent civilians from the line of fire, we would. I think we all, or at least three of us, agree that Netanyahu has made major mistakes in the past and in the present. And I think that we all agreed that ultimately we would like to see every person living from the river to the sea living in dignity with full civil rights. And so I'm so grateful to have had this experience and found all of this common ground with you all.
Well said. All right, thank you, Batra. Dave, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Okay, so it was about 200 years ago that Thomas Jefferson had this great quote. I do believe it was in 1824, where he was speaking about slavery, and he said, I might butcher this a little bit, but he said, we've got the wolf by the ear, and we can neither afford to hang on to it nor let it go. And I think this was a common objection to abolitionists that people at the time had. They were like, look, we've enslaved these people for so long. If we let them go now, they're going to kill all of us. And you could kind of see where that was reasonable at the time, to be concerned about that. But with 200 years of hindsight, we can all look at this and go, yeah, but you can't enslave people. And whatever problem comes after that, you just have to abolish this. And that's kind of the same way I feel about the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. It's been since 1967, man. You just can't do this to people anymore. Mr. Prager used the example of World War II over and over and over again today. And I know I'm not a left-winger, Cenk is, and the rest of us aren't. But I know when I say, hey, we should make a peace deal after October 7th, a lot of people go, that sounds wimpy and left-wingy. How about forget the lessons of World War II? How about the lessons of Vietnam and Korea and Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Libya and Somalia and Yemen and a million others? Actually, we should be striving for peace. This isn't anything like World War II. This is a group of people who have been totally dominated by Israel since at least 1967. Israel isn't going anywhere. From the river to the sea is never going to happen. But these people can be given their freedom and peace can be achieved.
Okay, well said, Dave. Go ahead, Dennis.
So I would love that too. Right now, most Palestinians would like to get rid of a Jewish state. I wish that weren't true. If it weren't true, I do believe there would be peace. I think that that is the honest approach. I just have to say, even though it's my final statement, I nevertheless have to respond. The comparisons you make are remarkable. I mean, that the slavery of blacks and the status of Palestinians are comparable. It's such an insult to blacks. All you suffered was what Palestinians suffered?
No, it's a logical analogy.
No, it's not a logical. Well, no, it's not logical because it's not analogous. That's the point. You can't have a logical analogy if it's not analogous.
Okay.
Okay, so one final word. The pariah state of Israel. That is correct. That was what, in fact, Chuck Schumer said, Israel twice in his talk, that Israel is a pariah state. There's a reason that Israel is a pariah state. It's because the left-wing media in the world have decided to declare, along with Muslim countries, and Israel a pariah state. So here is just a couple of statistics that are worthy of noting. In the last few years, 500,000 people have been killed in a breakaway province in Ethiopia called Tigray. Now, one of you watching this probably knows about it. I don't know if anybody on this panel knows about it. 500,000 slaughtered and about 80,000 rapes. Is Ethiopia a pariah state? Of course not, because they're not Jews.
Hey, let's send them some money, right?
So nobody gives a damn. How about this? 60,000 Christians have been slaughtered in West Africa since 2000. They've been slaughtered by Muslim groups. Does anybody call the Muslim groups pariahs or any Muslim country a pariah? Of course not, because nobody gives a damn about the black Christians of West Africa because they're not being killed by Jews. That's the reason Israel is a pariah state.
No one cares because it's not happening here. We don't want to finance the shit that goes bad in other parts of the world. We can't afford to take care of the bad shit that happens here.
Nobody would like to acknowledge it. It's painful, but the truth is often painful.
Okay. All right. Cenk, go ahead.
So after 57 years of occupation, Israel's the victims, and they're special victims. Okay, so look, I care about both Israeli civilians and Palestinian civilians. And so if you say, oh, well, you know, brilliant point about slavery, I said it about the North and the South before, hey, the black slaves would get rid of a white state. We can't have it. We can't have it. If we free them, they could kill us all. And they are so against the white state. They're so against America. We can never let them go. By the way, that is what is said in every occupation, in every empire, in every war. And after every war, they say, oh, look at how many of our people they killed. They killed our women, our children, etc. We can't make peace with them. And what does that lead to? It leads to more war, more killings, both on the Israeli Israeli side and the Palestinian side. Peace gets the peace, war gets the war. At some point, and this is the point, we have to say, stop going towards war. What are we bombing Iran for? Are we nuts? We want a giant war in the Middle East that drags us into it, robs us of trillions of dollars, let alone our kids who can get killed there, let alone the potentially millions of people who can kill. The moral cancer here that is causing every problem we're talking about is the occupation. You have to let them go. If you're Israel, you have to let them go. If you don't let them go, this conflict and this war will never end. And then you can call it any name you like. You can say, oh, they're terrorists and we're the good guys. But it doesn't matter because more Israelis are going to die and more Palestinians are going to die. Let's do peace right now.
Okay. Zero Hedge would like me to extend a thank you to tonight's sponsor.
And that's where we're going to end this one today. I'm gonna just give a little couple of comments here that I had written down. They keep liking to they really do like to let's use this Jew hate thing and blame everything on Jew hate, right? I'm a bit of an asshole. Like I've told all y'all that. That's why I'm trying to get monetized, to show the world I don't have to be a fake nice guy to get monetized, right? I'm a bit of an asshole. But it would be like me just going like, yeah, everybody just always picks on me because they have Aries Van Dam hate. That's silly. Like I know why people are like, dislike me because I make them sometimes. Like if I don't like them, I'll make them dislike me, right? And that's what Israel does to everyone in the region, right? The problem is they're New Jersey-sized country. They shouldn't be picking fights with all these bigger countries just because they have our pockets filled with like whatever they're giving us to make us enforce their regime, the regime over there. But anyway, that's just my point here. Like at a certain point, you got to just admit, hey, I'm a bit of an asshole, and maybe that's why the world just doesn't get me, right? And that's what the realization I had to come to. I don't even try to be an asshole most of the time. I just say what I think, and people feel that way. So good, go fuck yourself. I don't care. And two, if you're still here, please subscribe. And let me know if you like these better when I do them live, or if you like it better like this, where I actually have it pre-recorded and stuff, and I can edit out any of my fuck-ups, which I'm too lazy to do. But let me know in the comments, and please subscribe. Now let me restart my weekend and get back out there. I don't like doing these on the weekends, but I will do them if that's what people seem to appreciate more. I'm easy. I'll do it either way. But I'm just doing it this way for this one because I don't know what TYT's issue is with like streaming. I know a lot of places will mess you up with if you try and live stream stuff like this. And I interrupt so much. There's no way you could say it's not fair use. Like I constantly interrupt, as you've probably seen. But I'm gonna end this here. Let me get the music going so it doesn't sound crazy. There we go. Have a good weekend. Oh wait, your weekend's over. Have a good day. And I will see y'all. My days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you'll see me soon enough. Peace.